going over with a guest, Zoe, on a law and land information. We've been doing a lot and covering a lot, you guys, on our YouTube platform, and now we are bringing this information to you as far as the law. So let's get a couple of songs to get in for you guys to get ready for this information. Huey P. Nuisance, Arabian Nights, featuring Young Tank.
Kaya ka na, kaya ka na iba, all in the game, all in the game. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in black and Arabian nights. We riding on horseback, playing up piano, Alicia Keys on the track. Up into the wax to put the men that's on the track. When the records so they hit the dope, they when they ran the trap. We poured the coca leaves and we whipped it in the crack. Put the Lincoln Navigator, put the nation on the map. Invested in real estate, I'm trying to buy the block back. Yeah, that's generational wealth. How we fall, no cap. Blood residue on my fingertips, look like tree sap. The Hennessy bottle hit the throttle on the Hellcat. Blowing excited models, be blowing me with my seat back. To see inside a luxury cars, it's a Maybach. Godfather of soul, just a big payback. Pulling strings like Boosie Collins, Sheila E's on a hi-hat. Walking the tightrope, when the circus is a high act. Better not lose focus or you might just it's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all so big, really proper as a younger roaming the streets. Hitting candy, flipping nickels and dimes what started me. Coca-Cola bottle tops and trying to see a quarter ski. Negotiating wholesale prices to get a lower fee. Before I hit the court, I ball. Skip the lawyer fee. Trying to see residual incomes, talking worlds. And trying to get the bite to eat the milk spoiled things. Roaches in the box of cereal, call them lottery. These are building blocks, grandpapa call them mortary. Papa said that baby give a chance if he saw the king. Marching on Washington, walking on water. From Atlanta, he a martyr. He was trying to get his sovereignty. All from Atlanta, trying to get up out this quarantine. Forest fire burning, man, I always play this identity. Bitch, I'm an Atlanta brave, I ain't never been a slave. See, I fucking Sanders on the corner, bitch, it's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Put the game up on the board. Words, hear me, Lord. Even if I didn't have to be on the board degree, hear me meant to bend the big debris. All I want to do is be me. I do pretty easy. Even if I hadn't done
Boy, come on, ain't y'all like that? Y'all like that?
Hear me, man. I was words with amazing. Even if I didn't bring
What?
Peace.
guns, bang, hear me, man, the sunshine, hear me, man, I rhyme, drinking the wine, hear me, eating the bread, a loaf, hear me, man, I'm a overdose, and you know that I've been dope.
What?
I float on the waters like the boat, oh shit, I be shining, hear me, man, I be blinding, them, hear me, never see, but they better eat they Wheaties, I be game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers, it's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors,
Game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game.
Game of the streets, game
All in the game.
game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of connivers. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of canals. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers,
Game of the what? It's all in the
game.
game.
Game of survivors.
Oh yeah.
Game of cannabis. It's all in the game. Game of the streets, game of survivors, game of the hustlers, game of cannabis. It's all in the game.
All right. I know y'all like that. Y'all done heard a couple of jams by Mr. Huey P. Nuisance. You guys know you can go check him out on YouTube. Huey P. Nuisance, Nusense. Check him out. That right there is my fire jam right there. Black Arabian Nights, featuring Young Tank by Mr. Huey P. Nuisance. We're going to get one more in. Mr. Trey Ali, Black Codes, coming up next. And we're going to get right into this information, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in to Sister Soul on the main radio. We're about to get right to it. Trey Ali, Black Codes. And I'm having a bit of issues, guys, but we're getting there. Y'all know how this internet do. Don't be shocked.
Yeah, rhyme so dope, my eyes low. When you move like God, the time slow. I came back for the blacks and John Doe's. Crack open them land patents, let go of them town homes. What's a native to a native? He $5 dough if he not melanated. Pale faces got you waiting on the savior. Sending prayers up, he texting back on vacation. Yeah. God's children, give all your praise to Jesus, but how God feeling? He say put no one before him in divine image. It's you and God and Christians. I got a vision, but niggas ain't gotta listen, so they don't. We came from the soil, wasn't fucking with no boats. Bible took our spirit, English plotted on our homes. Tribal families turned on us, don't act like y'all don't know. But fuck them and they grudges. We was something turned to nothing. And now we let this turn to something. Reincarnation of ancients, fresh up out the oven. This the message to the black man. 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 Shooters on my roof, lawyers in the code. We can never die, bitch, we bulletproof. This the message to the black man. This the message to the black man. You wasn't slaves, you was prisoners of war.
What?
Wasting your time, these other bitches ain't important.
They ain't important.
And you ain't meeting with the sauce. Like what
you
the
better meditate.
You ain't painted with the sauce. I find it hard to trust the pastor who rather side with the master who preaching we should submit while getting murdered and captured. About how we should wait on God is never our vernacular. They get paid and praised by the dollar long as they keeping us stagnant. And niggas think they woke, huh?
They like think they woke, they still sleep.
Boat, huh? Like slave masters willing to let their slave go, huh? That slave master was probably your kinfolk, huh? History in reverse, a black king strategy. When blacks were your majesty, they always hide your pyramids but point to where the castles be. Aristocracies with your last name patent accurately. Yeah. And I ain't even tell half the shit.
He ain't even told a piece of it. Think
I ain't even tell a quarter of the shit.
Yeah, y'all about to get into it.
I'm just getting started.
We just getting started over here too.
Rap about busting guns and all this weird shit. I'm trying to get my people back, nigga.
That's right. Get us on the right page. That's what we talking about. We got some music that comes and hits your soul, telling you some information, just making sure that we are opening up portals in your mind like I like to do. Y'all already know what it is. What's going on? Thanks so much for tuning in to Sister Soul on the main radio tonight, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. We have a guest who is helping us today with land and law. We have today joining us Mr. Zoe Hustles. Zoe, thanks so much for joining us today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, sir? Thank you so much for joining us. Our audience would like to know a little bit about you before we get into this land and law, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm the middle of 7. I was born in the gutter, Just was raised like, tragic, it was crazy. No, I'm just joking.
You know what? These are jokes. The guys don't pay him no attention. You know he got to play. But bro, tell him a little bit about you generally. Like, what
Okay. But
your
no, I'm
background.
from Michigan, you know what I'm saying? I lived in many cities throughout, across America. Um, I got into law, about probably about 15 years ago.
Okay.
I won many cases, you know what I'm saying? Um, you know, I started studying land law a lot more about probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was quiet about it. But I was, kind of giving hints out. You know what I'm saying? And certain words came out, and people ran with it. And it's a land law that actually exists. Is pretty much the umbrella of all of that, with the, land patents, the allotments, the deeds, the titles, um, the warranties, you know what I'm saying? The deeders. It's a lot of things that, you know what I'm saying, we're gonna be covering. So in part two right here, part one was the start. Part two, it gets a little deep and it has a lot of word exchanging. And part three is gonna be a heavy duty. But yeah, I was given the name Zo Hustles and the name Wolf God, so I kept both of them and just became Zo Hustles the Wolf God.
So you obviously are from an Aboriginal background, correct? My audience is not very familiar with a lot of the information. I have been bringing it forward over the last few months. But is that something that you are part of, sir? Do you consider yourself part of an Aboriginal, Indigenous, American Indian tribe?
I'm all of original American. Um, a lot of titles, you know what I'm saying, do cross paths with people's connection. And what they got to realize is if you melanated American, you indigenous, autochthonous, aboriginal, Indian, and not to say that some people don't like know how to like differentiate that not all indigenous Americans or aboriginal ancient Americans was Indian,
Mm.
so like that be a confusing thing too. But me, I was raised tribal, you know what I'm saying? Knew the roots, the tribe, the nation, all of that we come from. And it goes past like when people say they Cherokee, you gotta know what nation you was connected with, then the tribe after the nation, because Cherokee itself was a big nation, but it wasn't Cherokee, at the time. That was a title later on, not due to the dialect not being able to pronounce certain words, he ended up with it as a Cherokee. But yeah, I know most of the information. Know the roots, know my coat of arms and the shield. Done a lot of that information as well.
Okay, I appreciate that, bro. I didn't want to get too much into that, just but for the people that aren't too familiar, I try to make sure that people are coming to this information. As you know, I'm fairly new to it myself over the last maybe I keep saying 5, 6 months. It's been about 7, 8 months actually. And, it's phenomenal to come into this information, especially when you're not aware of it. It gives you a lot of power in knowing, or at least thinking about the background that you may have come from and not thinking that you came from nothing. Like they try to make you think a lot of times. So I just wanted to get into that. But real quick, what did you want to start with? I know we had a few forms that you sent. Did you want to start with one in particular, just so I know?
Um,
Or either one?
we can go. We can go to the forums. We can go to the forums.
Okay. Is that what you want to start? I don't want to, let's
We
go where you
can
want to
on this right here.
go. Mm-hmm.
This is this is a part two. So we can go back over some of the stuff we covered in part one, so they can
Okay.
catch up from And if you guys haven't seen the video of part one, land and law, it'll cover what I'm going to mention as far as what we covered in that one, so we can continue. In part one, we cover the 5 different type of deeds. Number one was warranty deed, which is a deed that guarantees a clear title to buy of real property and real land. Number two was a special warranty deed. That's a deed warranting only against the land while you own it. Number three was a quick claim. That's a real property and does have stipulations. You know what I'm saying? It's a legal claim against someone else's land that you can actually, get the title to or the title deed to. And the title and the deed are two different things, but we're going to get to that in part two today. But number four, bargain and sale deed. That's it is US real property. It's the law. A deed conveying real property without covenants, which means if you say, for instance, buy a property on a auction and it had things, covenants or contracts connected to that property on the bargain and sale deed, you take on everything that that property had attached to it. So if it was a $370 gas bill left at that property, and the person died maybe, but the person before didn't close out his last will and testimony or whatever, and somehow it's a covenant on that property. You pick up that $375 gas bill, and then that other fee, if it was another fee connected as a covenant to that property. So in the bargain and sale deed, you pick up the tangibles that's connected to the property you buy. Number five was
Real quick on
oh, go ahead.
Quick on what you were saying. So when it comes to the bargain and sale deed, the difference is that with that is only that the person may have left some type of debt on the property as well. So you're not only acquiring the property, but you're going to go ahead and acquire whatever debt they had as well. Okay, and you assume that, and this is part of it being like the bargain of that deal, obviously, so on and so forth.
Well, hold on. Now, as far as a debt wouldn't be left on a property with a bargain and sale deed in a position, and it's gonna be covered tonight. And so I'm glad you brought that up. But to the audience, that's why I mentioned just a second ago, title and deed are two different things. And so a person can have title and have left debt because the property wasn't paid off. That's what they call it foreclosure, right? And so the foreclosure, once again, is on the four corner contract. That's that covenant. So the foreclosure comes over and take that debt on, but then you go and buy the property at an auction. If it was only a title on that property and not a last will, testimony, and deed on that property, then the bank that's going to end up letting you get the property is kind of like a mechanic's lien on the property, to where you owe us $48,000 and it's selling for $68,000. We're getting our money first, and whoever else, So, but number five is grant deed. This is used to transfer interest in property to a person or entity or another person, period. So that was warranty deed, special warranty deed, quick claim deed, bargain and sale deed, and grant deed.
Okay, great.
So that was in part one. So now, while we at it, we can jump right into it. The difference between this part two, let's begin. The difference between a title and a deed. You can have a title deed, but a title is just as we were just mentioning when I was basically telling you all of the titles of the indigenous Americans, which you can call it. I'm all of that. So that's the title, which it means ownership of that title, right? But it's not a piece of paper. So when you get a deed, that's the receipt. That's the evidence of a purchase on document. So when people say, yeah, we got to look for the title, that could be broad. Now we got to understand we're dealing with land law. We're not just dealing with opinion. So like title, like the title is like entitlement or being entitled, not the 100% owner yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for instance, if you got a title to a property, right, and somebody's deed is still on that property that sold you the property, and you just got a title to it, they might still have 27% ownership of that property. Mm.
The donee and the donor. Free pop off.
Right. So that's kind of like under title, you got the right of possession, right? You got the right of control, you got the right of exclusion, you got the right of enjoyment, the right of disposition, but you cannot sell it without the deed, which is the clear title deed. So now we go into the deed part of it, is where the deed is the receipt. It's the evidence of transfer from the person you bought it from. So you get the evidence, which is the document, which is the deed, which is written out. You don't want some shit typed up. Not for the deed. No, you want that handwritten.
Now,
Ah,
why does it have to be handwritten? What is
because
it
it's the
about that?
evidence of the person to person transfer. It guarantees the ownership, the control of the amount of the ownership, even the percentage. So, for instance, like I said, your grandfather sold you a piece of land, but he kept 40% deed ownership of the land. He allowed you to get a title for the land, which you have the right of possession, right to control it and management. You know what I'm saying? Enjoy it, exclusion, and disposition. But you can't sell the property after your granddaddy gave it to you with that
So,
deed in his hand.
so in that you're saying, like, let's say if I had a property and with my children, I said, okay, I want to give all of them title to the property. So all of them are heirs per se to the property. I would hold the deed,
Mm-hmm.
but I could put the entire property, I could split it in 4 quarters and everybody gets 25%. I would have the deed to it, but they would have the titleship over it. Is that
They
correct?
would have title ownership.
So I couldn't do anything with it because I have the deed, because they also have titleship. They would have to coincide with that because I've given them title over the property as well. Is that correct?
You give them exclusion.
Okay.
So basically, that's why, Pete, now, title, a document, you know what I'm saying, that you gave to them, right? The title as a document, which is what they call it, a bill of sale. Haha. We're going to use the word bill of sale for title, right? Now, you give them a document that lists the legal owner of the property, right? But then when you go to the deed is an official written document declaring the person's legal ownership of the property. While the title refers to the concept of the ownership rights. A deed, on the other hand, also can be the physical possession after you purchase the property.
Mm.
So the deed and the title, after you get a title to a property, you should be waiting 5 to 30 days to be going for the deed. Now you
So
get
is
the
that
you hold on. Within After you purchase property legally and in law, a title to that purchase should be ready within 5 days. And that's due to the fact that I purchased property in California back in 2009. So within 5 days, we went down there and got the title. But we didn't get the deed until it was later, and it had the grantors listed on there, and it was me and my ex-wife. So that property cannot be sold without those two grantors' signatures, because those grantors was on the deed. So whoever name could be on the title, the grantor on that deed supersedes the title.
so it's possible for a person to pretend to have ownership of a property, make a false sale to a person, and then they can be duped, give their money over, and they're not actually going to be the owner of this property because they don't hold the deed to this particular property. So people are duped that
Right,
way. Correct? Okay.
right. Right, right. And that's why you get a lot of these situation where it's renters fraud. And whereas people going and planning on moving from out of state come into town and they get into town and none of the stuff is set up. The place that they were supposed to be renting that they got pictures of and they sent the money ahead and these people sent them some keys to something that don't exist. It always happened because people do these documents up. And that's why, like I was saying, the deed that you get is the official written document. The title can be typed, but the deed has to be written, especially if
Now,
it's
does
going
this
from
apply
person.
to that real property or life estate as he's talking about in the chat? What is that different from what you're talking about?
It applies to life estate too. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that's once again, it's all under one umbrella. You know, when you're dealing with land law, the umbrella to all of the situation we're suffering from losing our land. This is where we
Mhm.
lost it at in land law. And because law has so many different chapters and categories and levels, we are still climbing up to the from the first floor to the first landing. We ain't even make it to the second floor yet. That's how deep law is. Law is broad and it got a lot in it. It'd take more than 2 lifetimes to know all law and memorize it.
I bet.
Yeah, yeah.
I know a couple of those books I've been looking through. Some the pages is like, man, I can't take time to read all this. That's
Yeah,
within the
yeah.
normal.
As a matter of fact, since we speaking on it with the grantor situation, right?
Mhm.
Now, the grantor is a person or institution that makes a grant or covenant, right? Then
I'm
you
gonna
go
mute
to
because
the
I think it's giving a little bit of an echo. Just so you know, but I'm right here.
oh, okay. So then you get the grantor, which is the person or institution that makes the grants or covenant to these controlling of situations, which me and my ex-wife was on our deed as the grantors. And you get the trustors and the trustees, you get the beneficiaries and all of these. So we're gonna cover that too. I'm gonna go straight to trustor, a person or organization that gives funds, assets, situations like that. Now the trustee is the person or member of the board or family or powers of administrations for the property in the trust or legal obligation. So that's the trustee. Then you get the custodian. Like the U.S. is pretending to be custodian of the land right now. You know, but it breaks down in so many different levels. You know what I'm saying? So when we dealing with this land law situation to cover it all, oh man, it'll take more than a couple hours. But from there, I'm gonna go ahead and cover these 4 elements of land possession. We gonna dig in and get dirty on these. Now, these are 4 elements that I had kind of decoded, but they have a lot to do with how the property got taken away up under our ancestors' nose and didn't realize it was happening due to um, migrating, miscommunication, wars, all kind of things. So why we often situations they were moving into our cribs, picking up right where we left off. Food and food in the coolant. The coolants was buried like into the ground, but they was made out of wood and they stayed cool. See, a lot of people don't know this, but the 4 elements of land possession under the Act of 29 of 1995. That's one of the things you guys can look up. The uniform, but number one, the entry and exclusive possession. Number one is entry and exclusive possession. This is an adverse possession, exclusive, open, and notorious. For most people, they must enter and reside in the home or land or use the land for the entire duration of the adverse possession period. In addition, The possessor must occupy the land in the exclusion of a true owner, like make it public, put a fence around that motherfucker, put, on the front of the fence, warning, beware, no trespassing. That's the entry and exclusion. You change the door locks and matter of fact, change the doors. That's number one. Number two is open and notorious possession. Open and notorious possession. This must be done in a manner that is visible to everyone. In other words, the possession must be done in such a manner that the actual owner would notice the possession if he or she ever bothered to look or ride by and just notice that, damn, it's a big old fence with a gate on it. And it says, no trust. Hold on, I own this. But it's already under the open and notorious possession. They After I get past these, you're gonna understand how this open and notorious possession works in law. Number three, then they fall into this hostile takeover under claim of right. This requires that the possessor must enter and possess the property without the owner's consent. And that the possessor that possesses the property with the intent of remaining on the property permanently, pretty much until the statute of limitations of that state runs out. Sometimes it could be 2, 3 years, sometimes 7. They're in that property. They built the crib, or if it was a crib there and it was abandoned, they rebuilt it and lived in it. They stayed in it until, pretty much the uh, statute of limitations run out. Then they'll end up going to get a quick claim title for or adverse possession. But it does not require to actually claim rights, but must remain on the land perpetually or enough to maintain as an owner. Like, that shows shit. Now, number 4, continuous and uninterrupted possession. Continuous and uninterrupted possession. The possessor must have uninterrupted possession of the land for the duration of the statute period. Of course, this does not mean that the possessor must be on the land 24 hours, 7 days a week. Rather, the possessor must occupy the land as if it was his own, file a claim or lawsuit for a claim of deeds, and locate the last owner if possible. If not, continue going. Don't stop because you can't contact the last owner and you own that property for 2 years and it's 3 years for the statute of limitations, and you didn't already did your paperwork. You filed a claim for quit deed. And it's called a quit claim deed. Actually, let me go back to that. The quit claim deed is a legal claim against someone else's land or real property and does not have stipulations. So if you supersede the statute of limitations, you filed your paperwork in the lawsuit to basically go through the probate, because it's a probate court that you would be dealing with this land stuff on these levels with, quit claim deeds and stuff like this. But we can pause there for a minute and let build on that, sis. You know what I'm saying? What you got?
The quick claim deed. You want me to pull some up on it?
Oh yeah, you can pull that up. I mean, yeah, we can go ahead and build on that and surround the listeners to that right there. And we're gonna go back after we go over quit claim deed. We're gonna go back over the 4 elements one by one so they can see the 4 elements of land possession, which really is how our ancestors got a lot of land taken from under their feet.
I think that was the one I had a problem with pulling up late before. Let me see. Um, what about the bargain and sell deed? Is that in relations or the real property?
No. The bargain and sell deed ain't relations to the actual land possession of the adverse possessions and stuff like that.
Okay, so you want me to just look up the information on it? Basically, you want me to pull up what it's saying about the quick claim?
Oh, you can pull up adverse possession.
Oh, adverse production. Okay.
Then we're gonna cover the abstract subtitle and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna get funky.
Okay.
Shout
It
out to all the
says
guys and the goddess in the
affidavit
back.
of the. It said affidavit get access to the largest online library of legal forms. Do I want to go to the forms? No. I just want to let me see definition.
You can go to you can type in adverse possession
Affidavit.
definition.
The occupation of land to which another person has title with the intention of possessing it as one's own. And it says, what are the five elements of that adverse possession? Is, hold on a second. What are the five? Okay, it says five elements. All right. It says open and notorious. The person's possession must occupy a parcel of land in a manner that is open and obvious. It's exclusive, it's hostile, it's statutory period, and continuous and uninterrupted.
Mhm.
The square and acquire. And it says that it's acquiring the property through unsolicited means. According to the law of adverse possession, if a person continues to be in possession of the property for 12 years, they are granted the ownership. So they have to be in possession of that property for 12 full years in order to get that adverse possession, correct?
Right.
You
That's
claim
why it
land in
says
10 years.
up under the quit claim deed that it had, have stipulations.
Okay. So you're saying different, it's giving a lot of different ones. How do you prove possession of a house? The documents acquired for the issue or the possession certificates by the government. It's an extract of the land record or the property deed, which proves the title of the builder over the land in question. The sale agreement, which is in the document of the sale executed by you or the builder. So is
Yeah,
that why some of these people are on these properties and we see them building with construction, they'll start moving the trees out and they'll say, oh, this place, I guess someone's just taking possession of it. Because I'm wondering about that. I keep seeing these different areas um, that
they
are
got the
just vacant.
dozers out there clearing it out to build on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of and see that's the thing is, man, it's so much abandoned land in America. Yeah, you
Yeah,
might ride past abandoned land every day in your city. You know what I'm saying? And most people don't even know that that land is just forgotten about, and the city just sitting on it. They ain't finna put in the newspaper. Hey, we got some property over here no one claimed in the last 12 years. The statute of
right,
limitations is only 3. You can actually own it for $1, or you can get it free through a free land deed.
right. And this is what I keep saying. I keep when I hear everyone talking about, oh, we got to buy this land, buy this land. I'm like, why the hell? I'm sorry. Why do you guys keep wanting to buy this land when we have all this land everywhere that whose ancestors we don't even know own? These people don't have any type of record to say that they own anything. Why can't we just go to this property? But there are clearly laws that state that we can do just that.
we own all of the land, but it's just that they back in about 1870, late
Mm-hmm.
1870s, they came it man, it was over 1,000 land companies, allotment companies, all of these companies just popped up, realtor companies, they started popping up. And really, they were planning on going more inland and getting land and trying to set people up to just get the land. But these type of elements that I'm talking about right now is how they was able to secure it in the pretend to be law of modern law that they came with. See, the common law is still basically protecting the land because the common law is what the Constitution was driven off of. But not only that, it supersedes them ever truly own the land in America. They're pretending to owning land.
Pretending. And
Yes.
people are falling for it. And that's the problem
Yes,
I'm having.
it's an illusion. Hey, Pito, this is the proof. Listen, this is the proof back in, what was that, 2006,
Mhm.
2007, when all of those banks was finna crash and they had to do a super bailout for all of these banks.
Mhm.
Yeah, when they had to do that super bailout for all of these banks, guess what? People was asking for their fucking title deeds. The deed, not the title. They fuck the title. Give me the deed, and the banks didn't have them. Ugh.
Mhm.
That's called
Y'all been sitting
compensation.
here paying these people for stuff that they didn't own, and this is what I'm saying. Even now, to this day, a person could be in a rental property, right? And that does not mean that the person you're renting from owns that damn property. And these people are getting
Hmm.
over on people and using people and abusing people. And it's annoying to me because I feel like we have to take some time to kind of use some type of common sense when it comes to some of this stuff, because we can not let these people, allow these people to continue to do things that are unrighteous and that are wrong, taken from us, things that are not theirs, so on and so forth. So it's kind of, I'm ready for a stop for that nonsense. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah, for real. No, that's just true talk, man. Because the thing is, that's why, like, covering this information. If people know this information and ain't covering it or volunteering to put this out there, then no reason to speak on it. Just keep covering the information and don't speak on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this takes time to learn. This takes time to find. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and pull up abstract of title. Now, this is important to know about because this covers all of the records to that lot, 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 in every piece of real property or real land has a lot. So if it's 1,000 acre, 2,000 acre, by now it's under some type of lot number. And this right here can give you a lot of history and a lot of information before they started putting these lots together, because it has the history before they put it as a boxed off lot or a rectangle lot. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Lies to grab the land. So the abstract of title is a summary giving the details of the title deed and the documents that prove that an owner's right to dispose of land, together with an encumbrances that relate to the particular property. Solicitors insist on a full abstract of this particular title. What is included in that abstract title? The abstract title is a record of the title history of the property or other significant asset, including the transfer, the liens, and the legal actions that are connected to this particular property.
Hmm. 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 So
And
now,
it gets to it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
now we covering abstract of title, right? All the records, a summary of the history, all the complete statements and information if it was ever liens on the property, everything, right? Now, behind that, we're gonna go right over to mineral rights. And I mentioned that in the first bill, but we didn't go over it. So we finna go over mineral rights. And mineral rights is, like I was speaking earlier about the difference between a title and a deed, to where if the grandpa know that it still got oil on the land and he kept his 27% and still sold the land
Mm-hmm.
with the title, which is like a bill of sale, at 27% on the son's land, if he found oil, the granddad still get 27% as mineral rights owner because he kept 27% of the land, even though he sold it with title. So these mineral rights is where we really got to know about all of this too. This matter of fact is one of the most important things because we got to know what we're standing on, which means you could be standing on mounds of emeralds, mounds of rubies, mounds of diamonds. You can be standing on black gold, which is oil. You can be standing on gas. So the mineral rights is what you would want to know about because if you get full mineral rights to any land that you find with your ancestors' information that you can use this information to get to, and you make sure that you research, I'm gonna give you a couple of links for to find land patents and all of that stuff, on Google. But when you find out about the mineral rights, make sure that that's a part of what you investigate. And when you find the land, find the lot number and all of this, because even back then it was lot numbers to everything. Back in the early 1900s, 1800s, it was lotted out.
Okay, so mineral rights are property rights to exploit an area for minerals in harbors. Mineral rights can be separate from property ownership. Mineral rights can transfer to sedimentary minerals that do not move below the Earth's surface, or fluid minerals such as oil or natural gas. There are different types. Obviously, the different types would be 6 different mineral rights, including mineral in interest, the royalty interest, the overriding royalty interest, the working interest, the non-operated working interest, and the net profits interest.
You heard that? Net profit interest. Where grandpa still got his 27%. And that company making $100 million a year, that 27% getting him 270,000 or more a year. He's sitting there. See, these are the mineral rights. These are involved in all of this too with the land. That's why they're certain areas they try to make public land to keep people from buying into, because if they're not going to mine it, they'd rather keep it open to public or a national park.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not just looking for land and ancestors' land. You got to also know what the real value of land means. The real value of land means it's one of the only 100% things that is collateral. Land is more collateral than your child to the system. So, like, just, for instance, if anybody in the back chat, what I'm saying, ever been incarcerated or went to jail for some dumb stuff and the bond was too high for what they had in their pocket, they'll say, well, do you have any land or a house? And then they'll ask you how much money you can get.
They want that house and property put up first so they can get a chance to get
they
that.
want listen, fuck the house. They want the property if you got some, then the house, then they'll talk about money. And it's always the land first because of the mineral. Just think, you can take 4 acres and set up 4 different rigs and be pumping. It'd be probably making over a couple $100,000 a year off of 4 rigs pumping, right then and there in them 4 acres. But our people forgot about these things. America flooded with oil. But for everybody in the back chat that want to get a chance, if y'all want to write this down, that these are some things that I've been looking on to find the actual lots from the aerial view. You can go to googleearth.com and they got a good way that once you got to actually know the aerial information, like the northwest, south of east, and then the 75 degrees north to those actual informations. You type it in googleearth.com, it'll show you right from above. You can also go to the BLM website and you can search the actual lot on the BLM website. You know what I'm saying? And then they got another one, um, Earth Point, Earth Point, Earth Point. So the sites that I be using a lot of times looking at aerial views of lands and lots is GoogleEarth.com, BLM
What is
website.
BLM?
That's the Bureau Land Management, Bureau of Land Management.com, or whatever they .org, .gov, whatever. And then the other one is Earth Point.
Okay. All right, I put them in the chat. Just to verify that, guys, if you guys didn't hear that, you guys can go to googleearth.com, earth.com, or you can go to the Bureau of Land Management.com.
Yes, yes, yes. And another thing, you know what I'm saying? In part three, we're gonna be covering how you can transfer titles in private, how you can make all your land and information being private. Um, I'm actually show you guys my property in California, show you a couple documents that's connected to the land over there and how an actual deed looks and how the information is laid out on the deed itself. You know what I'm saying? But this deed is typed because it's from the actual building company. But when you're getting deeds from a owner that exists already and it's not a corporation or entity, as they would call it, the deed would be more in a written form. You know what I'm saying? So um yeah, we gonna get funky on number three, you know what I'm saying? So we can cover a lot of stuff. And I'm gonna go over a lot of the words that's connected to all of this, control of, the mishaps of where we should be standing and where we not standing, and a lot of words connected to that being the grantor, the trustor, the trustee, we can cover the treasury, the account holders, we can cover beneficiaries, the custodians, the executors. I mean, we're gonna cover some stuff. We're gonna cover some stuff. So, you know, just wanted to get this joint jumped off and knocked out. So, just to rehash over what we went over today. We went over deeds, you know what I'm saying, and the difference between deeds and titles. We covered the adverse possession, the land, you know what I'm saying, the land possession, how it was manipulated with the, elements of hostile takeover, entry and exclusion of possession, those the notorious possessions, those things like that. And the thing is, what I realized is that if a lot of these people that got into those mansions, they called them squatters, right? If they knew this information and got into those places and did it right, they'll be living right. Because it's actual people that didn't squat and just went through this situation and actually got the land and the house and the mansion. Like a lot of people. I mean, actually, like Florida's being saturated by that. People finding like, them beach houses and stuff, they moving in and legally taking them over, especially when some of the older people haven't been there 2-3 years. Man, the statute of limitations might have hit them.
Right. So finding a place that has like the shortest time for their statute of limitation would be a good area if you're in that area to find you something and just get to it.
Yeah.
Assume the land.
Yeah, that's real talk. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Hope you guys, you know what I'm saying, enjoyed this part two. Part three is gonna be I'm gonna try to make sure we got some heavy stuff in that one. Probably try to get one of the brothers up here, you know what I'm saying, that's in the law, you know what I'm saying? Because we should all be in the law. We should all know law, man. I mean, by the end of the day, we can hate it all we want to, but we govern by it, even in private. You know what I'm saying? And me, I'm in private, but I know better. You know what I'm saying? I'm not one of the foolish, you know what I'm saying? Motherfucker would say he's sovereign. And no, I'm not. I was born that. I don't have to say that. I'm born. I'm home. So what the fuck that word mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah.
Squatting is the real profession. Ghetto child said that squatting is the real profession.
Hey,
I
on
heard
some
you
real
go.
though, listen though. Yo, ghetto
Now it
child.
sounded like to me like I might try
Hey,
to see what's got the lowest statutes. When I'm here now, I'm gonna see who got the lowest statute of limitation rates, and let me see if there's anywhere close to me. If it's something I want to jump into right now, because listen, that sounds like the plan. Because I'm already on that tip. I already feel like, why should we have to go ask somebody about buying some damn land on all this shit that we already own? So I already been on that. So now with hearing this information, what that tell me?
right, right. Like I said, man, you know what I'm saying? Is, you know, just bringing the information, sharing information, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, people that would want to just, you know, argue some information that's being shared, it's called ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes a motherfucker ain't gotta say nothing and everybody will miss something great could have been said.
Right,
But
right.
you know what I'm saying? That's real talk what he said on that squatting because I know some people that actually it's almost a life and they got money, but I don't understand how they do it like 4 months, 6 months, 6 months, 4, 3, 2. It's like weird, but driving Jaguars, Range Rover trucks, and got money, but would choose to continue jumping from mansion to mansion. I think what it is it's a plug for them. You know what I'm
That's what I
saying?
said. Let me find me a little mini matching somewhere.
Yeah, a lot of times squatting be plugs, man. You know,
It's a
they had
plug for
somebody that knew
anybody.
yeah, knew the realtor that had the keys to the property, and you know, hey, I'm gonna shoot you to 100. If the motherfucker sell, then we gonna move out. Yeah.
Now that sounds real fun, real real sneaky. You got your realtor buddy saying, "Hey, this place is open." You just
I'm telling you, listen. Listen. When I was in Atlanta on the northeast side in Marietta, I had a spot over there off of Delk, and it was Delk and Terrell Mill, I think. And I stayed in that place for almost 2 years, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 4, 3. But as long as I was paying the manager bread and kept him with smoke because I was getting the Cali and the A. So, you know, put those two together, I was having that shit. And I was able to just maneuver like that, you know, like trapping. And it was crazy because of the manager, you know, I was tight with him and kept him right. So, you know, they let me know, hey, we're gonna have to show that one, you know, this and that. You know, all the stuff that I have, you know, I get the box and, you know what I'm saying, the chair, fold up chairs, get all that, move it out, and just set it outside, like, you know what I'm saying, downstairs by the entrance or whatever in the back. And then as soon as they leave, go and put that back in there. We in there with a table, like a card table that fold out, fold up chairs, fold those out, plug up the boom box and shit, and we back rolling up smoking and trapping.
all right, guys. We're gonna play a quick song before we get up out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in to Sister Soul on the main radio. Make sure you are tuning in Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and yeah, make sure you're doing that. What we're going to do is play this song before, as we're going out. We are going to be continuing over on YouTube. If you guys like to join us, you can.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just looking for a feather girl, you know? Just get it. Vision be fooling. What's your name? What's your sign? I'm just trying to make you mine. Chocolate girl, you know you fine. Do I ever cross your mind? Get it wet, make it rain. Be my weather girl. I'm just looking for a wife. Won't you be my feather girl? What's your name? What's your sign? I'm just trying to make you mine. Chocolate girl, you know you fine. Do I ever cross your mind? Get it wet, make it rain. Be my weather girl. I'm just looking for a wife. Won't you be my feather girl? Yeah, you bad. Yeah, you fine. I'm just trying to make you mine. You ain't worried about these pennies, girl, cause you know you a dime. And I knew that I would have you. I just had to wait my time. Had to know you past looks, cause you know that love is blind. Met you at the powwow, asked you what's your tribe. You asked me, mom, we politicking, then we caught a vibe. So you rocking your feathers, you can say you caught my eye. From that moment, girl, I knew that I could probably make you bride. Girl, you the truth, shorty, what you wanna do? Come and be a winner, you know I could never lose. Wanna be a man now, tell me what I gotta prove. You the realest, so that's why a nigga really fuck with you. What's your name? What's your sign? I'm just trying to make you mine. Chocolate girl, you know you fine. Do I ever cross your mind? Get it wet, make it rain. Be my weather girl. I'm just looking for a wife. Won't you be my feather girl? What's your name? What's your sign? I'm just trying to make you mine. Chocolate girl, you know you fine. Do I ever cross your mind? Get it wet, make it rain. Be my weather girl. I'm just looking for a wife. Won't you be my feather girl? Damn girl, you do that thing damn well. I know you indigenous. What's your tribe? I can't tell. Are you Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee? No interracial girl. I only fuck with chicks that look like me. I like a long hair, melanated vibe with no guidance. Shorty, I'ma be your God. Let me show you how to live. It's not enough to just survive and maybe have a couple kids if I end up between your thighs. For real. Intellectual convos about a book or something. That smirk emoji like you giving me that look or something. You keep it real like you carrying a hook or something. So if you want it, you got it. Ain't kinda look for nothing. What's your name? What's your sign? I'm just trying to make you mine. Chocolate girl, you know you fine. Do I ever cross your mind? Get it wet, make it rain. Be my weather girl. I'm just looking for a wife. Won't you be my feather girl? What's your name? What's your sign? I'm just trying to make you mine. Chocolate girl, you know you fine. Do I ever cross your mind? Get it wet, make it rain. Be my weather girl. I'm just looking for a wife. Won't you be my feather girl?
Fire, 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 fire. I'm out. I know they be loving that indigenous music. I know they like,
That's
dang,
that
this music
shit,
sounds good.
yo.
I know
That's
they be going
that
right to it,
shit.
like, ooh,
I was
ooh,
in
ooh.
it. Look, I'm back here. I'm back here doing that shoulder lean, all kind of new dances I'm creating.
You know, that Feather Girl, man, that and that Royal, man, both of them is everything too. That Job Breaks, Threads, Trade. I mean, come on, y'all just
Shout out
be
to all the motherfucking Aboriginal indigenous gods, man. All of them,
real.
Trally, all of them, Threads. You know what I'm saying? All of them. Getting it in Huey P.
You, yeah, my bro popped in last night.
That's why and look, I'm gonna be messing with Huey P because I'm like, yeah, that's why you've been missing. You've been working on some projects. You didn't tell me.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? He know I'm over here dumping. I'm over here working on some heat, but I'm just being quiet. But I'm gonna be dumping tracks on the peoples. In a minute.
Little something, something.
Yeah, a little something. You know what I'm saying? I got. I mean, I don't have a style. I mean, my style of music is. I'm a musician. I'm not just a producer. I'm a musician. So I create R&B, all of that stuff.
Oh, variety of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But that hip hop and that hard raw stuff is my passion. Cause I'm a wolf, I'm an alpha, so I like that rugged, like man,
So
trust
none of the indigenous or aboriginal.
me. Oh man, listen, people hear me before they hear me, they gonna hear me, and it's gonna be like, wow, it's no reason to talk, but yeah, I'm working on some production, man. I'm gonna be dumping on a lot of the artists in the community, man. That's gonna be they gonna be like, yo, Zo. I mean, I knew you, but it's different. Like I don't create nothing that sounds like what you can hear today, but it's
Okay,
fire.
I'm trying to get this video pulled up. I wanted to show you guys. Get into a little watch party here before we get out of here. I got something for y'all. Okay, I don't know too much about the land and the law, guys, so I don't want to elaborate on nothing that he was building on. So I'm gonna leave it at that till he get back to y'all on that. But I'm gonna get into some of the stuff that interests me, and we'll go from there. So let me share something with you guys real quick. Throw my disclaimer. Son of California, thanks for coming through. First time seeing you in the chat. Welcome, welcome.
Let me look in it. I ain't even checking the chat, man.
Yeah, check the chat out real quick, bro. I'm trying to see.
Yo, peace to Chicken Harmony Rules. Peace to the
Chicken
gods,
Harmony.
man. Ghetto Child. What is Free Pawpaw? Honor thy mother and father so that they may live long in the land the Lord your God has gave you. That's Bible talk, bro. I'm God. But shout out to Ghetto Child Inc. You know what I'm saying? Pony Locks. You know what I'm saying? Aura. Luera was popping with you, brother. You know what I'm saying? And every greatest, you know what I'm saying? More than likely, Bronze and all them was in here too. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the gods.
Yeah, let's get this video play. Get you guys going with something else before you get out of here. Peace to my chat. Oh, y'all, everything is everything. Y'all already know. Y'all the best. Y'all the greatest. All right, let's get to it. My chat don't play. They be questioning everything. They want to make sure if it ain't right, they gonna ask. If they don't think they agree, they gonna ask. That's right. Let's keep us on point. We all got to be on point. Play.
Moving Image Trust Fund.
Ladies and gentlemen, including the people like myself, Dreamland Ballroom. We want you to come back tonight, tomorrow night, and from now on, we want to fun here at the Dreamland Ballroom here in the Lowlands. Thank you.
People would come from miles around to come to 9th Street just to see what it was like.
I'm saying this was the mecca of entertainment in the South.
I'm gonna blow the roof off of this sucker. Oh, yeah.
We thought we was on top of the world, man. You couldn't tell us nothing.
It was home. It was everything you would wish for.
I mean, all the top bands came through here.
They would come here. This was the place to come. It's 9th Street.
I want you to rock me, baby.
This is something that belongs to us. This is our place.
It was a wide open community. Some said too wide open.
I want you to rock me any day.
They did what they wanted to do to destroy a black community.
9th Street became nothing. No buildings on it. All the businesses were gone.
I can't see that there isn't some intent when it happened everywhere.
Oh, yeah!
When I first bought this building, I just fell in love with the building. I just fell in love with architecture. It just looked like a grand old building that'd be a wonderful place to put a flag in. Flags are very, very emotional products. When 9/11 happened, everybody wanted a flag, and they wanted it that day. Who goes and gets in the flag business? I got in the flag business from a series of bad luck. How I ended up here is beyond me, and how I'm so successful at it when most flag dealers are not, and how I'm saving this building without even knowing the history of this building. When I first started looking at it, I never even dreamed that I would ever have a reason to buy it or a way to buy it. It just called to me. And I just ended up coming into this broken down old building that was abandoned. And then when the old timers would come by to see who that lady was at the Borean Hall, I would spend time with them.
Community was for 100 years. This part, Rocks African American community. This was the capital city, I guess you could say, of the African American community in Arkansas. This was a community that was born out of emancipation. This area was originally a federal encampment where emancipated slaves came. They flocked here.
The Union occupied Little September 10th, 1863. And when that happened, thousands of blacks started to pour into Little Rock.
In fact, a lot of Southern plantation owners were so mad, they loaded up their slaves and they just drove them to Little Rock in their wagons and dumped them off. And they might have a little bundle of maybe some food and maybe a few belongings, but that's it.
They're liberating themselves. They're liberating themselves with their feet. They know Union troops are nearby. They know slavery never worked for them, so they're going to begin to make sense out of life.
Did you want to say something? You said press play.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't know if that was a video jumping or not. No, I was going to just say, to the listeners and everything, we got to remember the narrative because they're narrating right now, and what they're doing once again is putting the slave on the backs of the people that wasn't the slaves. Now this is called migration. It's not called no slaves being freed and run into an area and just encampment and start living in some damn tents. This is a part of the lie again. But that's all I wanted to say. So the people that's listening won't follow the slave narrative because those colored folks wasn't slaves that was going to Little Rock and all that.
Right, and real quick, as you can see, they didn't look like slaves. They weren't coming looking like they was beating. They had their belongings. They was carrying their trailers. They had they was walking normal. They was just moving like, damn, we got to find somewhere else to live, like homeless people. But they had their stuff.
Matter of fact, you know what, sis? This right here is a little bit more influence on how we're gonna make that part 3 fire. We're gonna show some ancient structures that exist way before any foreigners. I'm talking about not the paleface was almost the last people to come to America. They came after the mestizo Mongols and shit. They came later. Now, the first invaders and first foreigners came here were color folk looking just like you. But before they came, we're gonna show buildings that was existing in the cities that was existed before that. But go ahead, you can play the video.
And to begin to live life as freed people.
The U.S. military commanders were sort of overwhelmed. They didn't really know what to provide housing and care for all these. At the time, they were referred to as refugees.
They created a temporary little shanty town, and it consisted of tents and shacks, and this is where they put the former slaves.
Blissville basically became the core for the early black commercial district. Really is right in close proximity to 9th Street.
And they showing y'all how they was living. These are their
Arkansas
shacks made out of wood.
Just societal change.
The Republicans gained control, passed a new constitution, which meant
As you guys can see, they're all drawings until you get to the real people. It's this, they got the mic muted. So it's mute to y'all too in the back. Hey sis, the video is muted. Yeah, it's no audio, sis. Damn it.
The more cosmopolitan racial mix.
Yeah, we can hear it now.
Okay, you're gonna have to mute, bro, because I gotta leave mine unmuted. Something happened when I paused it, I think.
Places like Little Rock, because they did think it was more progressive and more moderate. I think they understand that they have to deal with racism, but not to the extent maybe they'd have to in Mississippi or Alabama.
Little Rock was considered for a time to be more tolerant of the races. Over time, that will change. When former Confederates were pardoned, they quickly swept all of the different elections, almost all of the positions of authority in the South. And so they gained control of the South again. They couldn't take away their freedom that was given with the 13th Amendment, but they could circumvent. Jim Crow laws made that pretty apparent.
Say, I have an idea. Yes. You'll be around here about a half hour before the show. You mean you're going to let me watch up close?
Oh,
Jim Crow, you'll practically be right on the stage.
Woo! Jim Crow was a minstrel character that was performed by a guy named Thomas Daddy Rice. And this caricature came around, I think, in about the 1830s, somewhere in there.
Wheel about and turn about and do just so.
The 1830s, is that what she said?
Jim Crow.
And minstrel characters,
1930s.
Performed in blackface, and they would perform in ways that stereotyped and stigmatized African Americans. Later on, the term was co-opted to mean racial segregation. It meant that increasingly the Black community found itself isolated, found itself being increasingly controlled.
And once the state had established its official cachet of authority to this practice of separating the races, then the practice started to spread much more in the private sector as well.
It was very costly. There had to be a Black hospital and a white hospital. There had to be a Black cemetery and a white cemetery.
They won't be around y'all dirty ass.
A lot of things that are necessary to grow an economy and grow a community were not really available to Black people at that time, just post-Reconstruction. And the way that it was provided by was the formation of fraternal organizations.
They existed because Black people couldn't expect to be admitted into predominantly white fraternal organizations. And so what's happening on 9th Street is happening in Black communities all over the country.
Really?
They're forming mutual aid kinds of societies to help each other out in difficult times.
The Knights and Daughters of Tabor, that is one of many fraternal organizations that we had in Arkansas. It is a national and eventually an international organization, just like the Mosaic Templars.
The official name of the Taborians was the Order of the 12, the Knights and Daughters of Tabor. They were founded in 1872 by the Reverend Moses Dixon. He was a minister of African Methodist Episcopal Church. He died in 1901. His successor was Scipio Jordan.
Scipio Africanus Jordan was a mail carrier here in Little Rock. He was an exemplary leader of the Knights and Daughters of Tabor. Very progressive man. He's the one that spearheaded organizing and getting this building built.
Really? You don't say.
This was the grand temple and tabernacle of the Knights and Daughters
Freaking
of Tabor.
Bolay. What you say?
It
Good old
was
aristocrats.
Black built and paid for with contributions from Arkansans, from chapters all over Arkansas. And it wasn't cheap. It was $65,000 when that was a lot of money.
1899.
The late teens and early 20s, this was a golden era for African American development.
Damn, she
You
looks
know,
like
when
my
they
cousin.
even had the label in Little Rock, the prosperous race. They were doing really well.
There were every kind of business imaginable.
That brickwork. Talk about that brickwork, bro.
Confectioners, you would have barber shops, you would have stable yards. You name it, almost any kind of business you can imagine would be operating here on.
That's my grandma's hometown.
And all the local people called it the line because the line was the boundary between black and white societies in Little Rock.
Keep y'all ass over there.
We had been ruled by race in Arkansas. Whites sought to dominate and control African Americans through really a retelling of our history in a way that justified and rationalized white supremacy.
Then increasingly, as we get up to the World War I years, there are African Americans who are questioning.
Shit, I thought he was a white man.
What is democracy? What does all of this mean? Should African Americans stand behind the war effort? Should African Americans go fight overseas? You know, how are you going to ask people to go abroad and fight for that cause when it's not happening here in the United States? But a lot of African Americans do go serve.
After the First World War, African Americans came back to Arkansas expecting there to be some changes in the way they were treated.
We see the rise of the KKK in Arkansas that had reinvented itself as being moral Protestants that are upholding family values.
Racial tensions are at an all-time high at this point because people are emboldened. They're saying, I have fought for this nation. Now, will this nation be all that it says it is? And again, some people are saying, well, I don't care what you fought for, and I don't care what this nation is supposed to be. You're black. You're at the bottom of the racial hierarchy. One of the ways they reinforce that is by killing people.
Okay. That part.
In 1927, in May, there was this child named Flo. Her body was found in the bell tower of the First Presbyterian Church.
Some pervert, probably the pastor.
Eventually, Lonnie Dixon was charged with the murder. He was able to be gotten out of Little Rock in the rumble seat of a Studebaker and sent thousands of people into just a frenzy.
That part, Charles. They the fucking African
People in
Americans
Little
around
Rock
this beat.
needed to find somebody
Think
to
it's a
take
game.
revenge on.
Say it ain't an insult to us.
What happened to John Carter was that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was alleged to have attacked two white women.
For what?
A white posse chased down Carter. They found him in the woods.
So they beat him, and they beat him, and they beat him.
Strung him up and forced him to jump off a car.
They hung his body from a telephone pole. Used his body as target practice.
Demons. Evil people.
Tied him behind a truck and drug him down from Broadway to Chester and back.
The very center of black life in Little Rock.
What pleasure you get if you not already killed somebody doing all that to them? None but an animal would do something
There
like
used
that.
to sit a big, beautiful church. The church was called Bethel. They broke into Bethel and got some pews. And they built this big barn fire in the middle of 9th Street. Then they took John Carter's body, placed it in the fire.
At one point,
Look at the
somebody
picture.
dragged his
They done took a
armed
picture of that
off
shit.
and directed traffic with it that night. The amount of intimidation that this caused in the African American community was enormous, and we still don't know how many African Americans left Little
they done
Rock
brought their nasty,
as a
funky
result
ass
of
over here
what
to
happened that
America.
night in 1927.
You know, our label of being tolerant kind of went away by that period of time. Yeah.
See right here? Shine shoe right here. Shine shoe right here. See that's the building right there. See it? Right in that front door. They tore it down. Chad shoe. Miller's, I want to take a funeral home right here. Miller's. See that sign right there? Miller's funeral home right here. And we get to the Twin City Club down there. See them steps down there, that place there, and go around there to see that. Go downstairs and go to Twin City Club down there in the basement. I run Twin City. It's a club, nightclub. Drink beer and dance. Pawn shop right here, black pawn shop. Got it? Black pawn shop right here. Got it? Then Crenshaw Taylor shop right here. Yeah, all black and working right
Ain't
here.
there one of them around there.
Walking and talking, shooting pool, liquor store, drinking, they were gambling, doing everything. Don't look like 9th Street now. Because that bill's all that side. Couldn't get down there on Saturday. People's like this in. People's like Ace down there. West Night Cab comes over there. Right there. West Night Cab. Yeah, church right there. Church. Yeah, that's right.
Building,
right
building it. All gone. Tore all that shit down.
Right
Man,
there.
if y'all see Chicago, let me stop this shit.
Red's Pool Hall right here.
No, let me stop. I ain't gonna say
Yeah, right here.
that. Get the talking.
Red's Pool Hall. Yeah, we chase the women. All men did. Women come down there. Well, a good time. Yeah, had our own business, everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, we know it tore everything down here. Children's drugstore right there. Yeah, right here. Children's drugstore right here. Got it?
He said Little Rock. That shit look like Chicago.
Drink a little Coca-Cola, beer together. Shoot pool.
Yes.
Well,
Remember
it
all
would be
of
nice
that.
talk of the town, used to be. That's the only place black folks could go at that time.
Damn, that's him. Look at him.
I wish them days come back to me. Had a good time.
Wow.
We got along down here. Good time. That's the one to go. We got one to go now.
Mr. Major, salute.
Only a few years ago,
Salute,
we were
Pops.
a discouraged people because we were the first to lose our jobs when Old Man Depression came along, and the first to get them back. We struggled vainly to regain our bearings while depression, fear, and failure stalked the nation.
In the 1930s, things were not looking that good for West 9th Street.
The Great Depression really impacted African Americans on the line. As a matter of fact, it impacted every single fraternal organization, and we're going to see them close the doors of a lot of their businesses. The Knights and Daughters of Tabor are going to lose this building because of the Great Depression. So what we see is a reorganization of West 9th Street.
When that happened, the kind of center of life, though, moved down the street to the Dreamland Ballroom.
When Dreamland became Dreamland is unclear. But we do know in 1933, it already had a name. They were already making a little heart-shaped invitation with Modernistic Club, the Dreamland Ballroom. And then in 1936, the Chicago Defender newspaper starts writing about the Dreamland Ballroom and
talking
how
about
it's
Chicago.
going to be this music
I thought they was
epicenter
talking about,
for all of
Little
these
Rock.
musical acts that are coming through Little Rock.
I'm getting confused.
In the United States of
That
America,
building up.
it appeared that music was a true freedom for the Negro race of people.
We're soul people. We got soul within our soul.
You hear the music playing, it's like your soul right
in our
there.
soul. Say it.
The Dreamland Ballroom was one of the most beautiful venues for these dances and for these performances in the South. Everybody talked about it.
You can dress real nice. You can just go and relax, enjoy life.
You know how we do.
That,
Y'all know how we do.
They was out there.
We love to get sharp.
People would have on their finest threads in the world, looking good from head to toe.
All right.
And they would come out and they would
smelling like
all night long.
We were jitterbugging. We weren't doing Charleston now. Charleston
I can
was out. That was
jitterbug.
old.
What y'all know about that jitterbug?
One of the best mothers was S.W. Tucker, and he's going to hold a lease on this place for a long, long period of time. And he kind of set the stage
when I was 4
to bring
years
those
old.
big
my
acts
nana.
to the Dreamland Ballroom.
Hey.
After they finished playing at the Robinson Auditorium, they were coming down to the line because this is the only place they could come.
They would do that gig, and then after that, they come to the ballroom for the real party.
And musicians are notorious for playing until the sun came up.
Every week there was some name entertainment. Oh, you name it, I've seen. Lil Green, Tiny Bradshaw, Duke Ellington, Count Basie.
Count Basie,
Lord Palmer,
B.B. King Band,
B.B. King, Cab Calloway,
Roy Milton and his Solid Simmons,
the Eat Spots, Mills
I got
Brothers,
autographed
Roy
picture of
Brown
all
and
them
his
people
Mighty
from my
Mighty
grandma.
Men,
Al Hibbert, Lucky Miller,
Ella Fitzgerald, Addison
Right
Dillon
now.
Sr.,
Louis Jones, Dinah Washington,
Ray Charles,
Billy Eckstein.
Little Richard, Etta James.
Oh, gee. So many bands that I can't even remember how many.
This nightlife here was the greatest life.
And at night, I would crawl up to fire escapes and sit in there and peek in the window while they were playing. I was too young to go. I did that for years.
Place would be crowded, people coming in. We'd sneak in. You just mingle with the crowd. After a while, they forget all about you.
Being able to go there and be exposed to all those musicians, that was the height of our growing up.
For a young person, that kind of opened you up to things. Things you hear about that was happening in New York was happening right here. Whatever you were sad about when you got here the music playing, that all you put to rest. Come in and have a good time.
That was a hell of a show, man. I could care less about anything else.
And I remember they would come here to have what they call the Battle of the Bands. This band would play like 4 or 5 songs. This band come up and play 4 or 5 songs. Then they rotate. Everybody had a good time.
It's so good, don't it? Feeling in your soul.
This was a musician's hangout, this whole street, because there were a lot of venues where they could play.
We were on what you call a chitlin circuit.
It's where most of the black performers traveled. Here, Nashville, Beale Street in Memphis, Birmingham, they call it the chitlin circuit.
I have read about some of the events that took place here, and they had 700 people crowded into this space.
There was a vibrant kind of mentality down there that probably didn't exist anywhere in the white community, but it was the black culture that really made it into a real happening place to be.
A lot of this music is, very reflective of difficult times. But then on the other hand, a lot of this music is meant to celebrate their creativity. Its origins are in these predominantly African-American spaces.
9th Street was the mecca of the
Shit
economy.
influenced the world.
And Dreamland Ballroom was the
What'd you say,
vehicle
bro?
that carried them.
When we pause it.
World War II.
I was going to say the music we was
dramatic,
making in the 1800s into the 1900s influenced the world.
Okay. You tell me something, we couldn't get none of that in the white neighborhood. Shit, what you thought? Why would you even question that?
Right, that's royal.
That shit was funny as hell to me.
Suddenly, the
What
number
are
of
you talking about?
vacancies in the street starts to diminish, and that was when the good times really rolled. A young soldier in his 20s, naturally, he wants to come to 9th Street.
Lights were on, people are having a good time, everything is hustle, bustle, moving.
It was like a scene in a movie, but it was real.
At night, everything was hanging out on the street. Everything.
It was just a wild
No,
time.
not
You
everything.
leave this place, you go to that place. Leave that place, you go to the next place.
It's an all-night thing. And then you slept all day.
Right.
Trying to get ready for the next night.
I ain't gonna lie, we did that in Chicago growing up. Man, I had older brothers and sisters. I was the baby. Man, bro.
We called him
I used to be right with them everywhere they went. I was with them.
Pain.
Everybody called him Miss Bobby.
There's a guy they called Fat. Fat used to run the pool hall. There's a guy named Black Mac. We called him Boo.
They called him Red.
He called himself Hard to Beat because he thought he was a great pool shooter, but he really couldn't shoot pool. I could beat him. It wasn't called Main Street, it was 9th Street, but for African Americans, it was Main Street.
It was our own town.
We couldn't go
See,
to
those
the
pictures are from the early 1900s.
Yeah.
stay in the white hotels. We had nowhere else to go. We were segregated. So it was two different cities in the one. Little Rock had a rule. 9th Street had a rule. And everyone liked 9th Street rule better than the Little Rock rule.
So when you're out there in the world outside of that space, it can be a very cold place. You have to constantly monitor what you say, guard your actions, guard your interactions with other people. It can become incredibly stressful to have to do that.
But you came to 9th Street, all those things you couldn't do, you could do.
If it's just to go down and sit in a restaurant and have your favorite meal cooked the way you like it.
You can exhale. You can exhale on Friday night or Saturday night. You can find yourself again. You can be who you truly are.
Yeah, we can't even do that now. Where they at like that? No, I'm lying. They got places like that. I'm just joking. That's beautiful though. That's beautiful though, right? Now here comes some BS.
Hell yeah, that's solid.
Tended to bring out the worst and the best of people. The line, West 9th Street, was the only place that African American soldiers could go. And then we had white policemen and white MPs that were, trying to keep the peace in this area as well.
I bet.
A lot of times you had the attitude just because you're wearing a uniform doesn't mean you're
I would have
equal
been
to
shooting
me.
their ass.
Police brutality that took place.
Get out the way.
And there was a African American soldier who was killed by the white policeman.
Sergeant Thomas Foster. He got into it with a white police officer, and the police officer shot him 5 times.
Damn.
It caused almost a riot on West 9th Street.
And this brought blacks together in a way that they had never been together.
Change is afoot, right? Things are happening. People are challenging the system. And anytime anybody challenges the system, that's when you see people really enforcing those Jim Crow laws.
The realization that we are going to have this change, it is going to happen, was hard for a lot of Arkansans to take. Because even if you were the poorest Arkansan, and I hope I'm not offensive to anyone, they still thought of themselves as better than any African American. Do you understand that?
Do you understand that?
Hey man, the change gonna come when your ass leave.
All the machinery is original. Okay. This kind of equipment lasts your lifetime. It never wears out. You might replace parts.
Gators with them gators.
But
yeah,
it just keeps going. This is back when they were really building
Stacey Adams
machinery. My dad owned his own shoe repair shop right behind our house in John Barrow. He had a nickname. They called him Red Rogers. He was quite a fella. He was born and raised right here in Little Rock, just like myself. And the shoe business was his life. Well, here my mother split up, separated, and he moved his location down on 9th Street, where the bulk of the black business was at the time. On a typical Saturday, it was real busy. This door opened every 30 seconds. That was a boom area, boom time. The money stayed in the neighborhood, and it flowed. It just flowed from one business to the next on 9th Street. It's like 9th Street was all interconnected at the time.
Damn, somebody fixing them raggedy ass sneakers.
The community would have stayed together with the exception
Those some Nike Pegasus.
God dang, it's rough out there. Boy.
Broke everything up and displaced them.
Should just donated the bro pair.
Town. When you separated like that, then you lost your power. You lose quite a bit, if not everything.
These Negroes walking down the street
They really
marching.
didn't expect that we were going to do it. And that's what I think is kind of fun, is that their expectation was that they were going to put all these obstacles.
Whoa, why I thought that was you talking, Zoe, for a minute. She sounded crazy. Hold on.
The separate but equal is never equal. Integration was the way to go, and now the law supported that. As long as African Americans kind of kept to themselves and knew their place, things were okay. But when they
Hold on, old
started,
bitch. She talking about know your place. Know your place. You in the wrong
Let's
place.
fast forward to our ass. Hold on, forward from move south face. We don't want to hear your ass. Hold on, Nana was speaking. Where'd she go?
Ain't gonna be like that. We done all got wiser. We had done the separation and we had tried to accommodate. It burst forth social boil that folks said, I'm equal to anybody. And I'm not going to take second class, nothing. Education, jobs,
what they thought.
Movement. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And I'm a people.
Jim Crow is starting to come to an end and break down at the same time that more geographical segregation is beginning to increase.
In Little Rock, well into the 1950s, in the central downtown neighborhoods, you still had whites and blacks living together on the same residential blocks. That started to change after school integration. And when that happened, sad but true, there was a conscious effort made by the Little Rock housing authorities and urban renewal to basically carry out a program of Negro removal, as it's come to be called.
Clean it up and get it right, and let's get them out the way now. That's how that works.
Downtown area.
Dirty ass.
The city board of directors authorized the
Man, if I was alive back then, they would have called me Nigger Lee. And Nigger Lee, he's kicking everybody ass.
Of the entire downtown.
They all need, man.
Well, when the city of Little Rock started to put into effect its slim clearance and urban renewal,
Slim clearance.
it was supposedly a colorblind thing. But the big complaint very quickly came that slim clearance and urban renewal were not just about beautifying the city, but they were explicitly racial in their nature. The allegations are that, whole areas were flattened because they were African American rather than because they were blighted, and that a few blighted homes were used as an excuse to just kind of raise complete areas of African American residents.
So they lied, showing a couple of areas that was bad. And they came and tore all this shit
whole
down.
areas of,
Right.
that had integrated housing were demolished.
Animals.
New public housing projects were established, like the one at Granite Mountain, for example, in southeast Little Rock. But they were deliberately placed far away from white neighborhoods. There was a conscious effort to basically kind of segregate housing in the city.
And you see that in perfect intersection with the schools and the Granby Board of Education decision. The first thing that the...
So that's what they did in Chicago. They went and moved all the projects. They had all the people in the projects, right? They tore up everything after they got, everybody there, and they rebuilt. They had downtown looking, a way it's closer to everything, like either way, Chicago is huge as heck. That's all I'm gonna say. So downtown is like everything is downtown. Like you can do any and everything downtown. So if you're in that area, that's a good place to live. They had a lot of the projects down there. Like from downtown, you go about 10 blocks and all that down. It was a lot of projects. So they tore all the projects down. Yep. They tore all the projects down.
I know, man, shit. I'm right in Grand Rapids. I used to be in the Chi my whole life.
Yeah, that's where I'm from. So they tore down half. They tore down half of them. Then I went back like 2 years later. Next thing you know, they were damn near all torn down. There was like two of them left in this area. Like, and I'm talking about there was blocks and blocks and blocks of them. I ain't even talking about the Cabrini Green. They've been tore that down. But by this time, they tearing down everything on State Street. It was like 2 whole projects left. So now they rebuilt all these nice townhouses over there, these condominiums, right? And they done displaced all of the people that was living in the projects. Oh, they got all excited. Oh, we moving to the suburbs. So they done pushed everybody out. They done took all the Negroes and pushed them out to the suburbs, where they has got to be traveling from like 215th Street, 275th Street, all the way downtown. When you come from downtown, when you come from 275th Street, you coming way down. 215th Street, you coming way down, because downtown is in the center. So you coming down. You got to go way down to get to the center of downtown, 200 some blocks. Like, what kind of sense that make? Did them so dirty. They did them so dirty, and this is what they doing right here. They do it everywhere. Everywhere.
It does is to create new schools in areas.
We got no audio.
Oh, I forgot I muted.
Manipulation through public policy by giving an advantage to whites to get away from integration and desegregation. You left a group of folks who were left to be back segregated by housing patterns.
One of the things that urban renewal does is to build new public housing, which are nicer, which are more modern, and all those kinds of things, and use those, incentives as instruments to move the black population away from traditional areas
what I just said
into new areas of residence.
Ooh, look what y'all getting.
There's all kinds of ways of manipulating things once you kind of break up the natural housing patterns.
Not only the housing changed,
press 1 if y'all can hear now.
The marketplace changed. Not only the marketplace changed, the schools changed. Not only the schools changed, the ownership was changing.
The what?
And that was determined by
the what?
Called the engines of institutional racism.
People were aware of it at the time. People in African American neighborhoods and white neighborhoods were aware of what was going on. But
of course,
there's not much you can do about it. Little Rock's known throughout the United States as being at the forefront.
What that shit said, the Hosting Act of 1961.
Getting that federal money to come into the city.
Let me write this shit down.
Because there's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
At stake. millions of dollars federal money on the table to bring to your city to help create better homes. West 9th Street was based a lot on those neighborhoods that surrounded it, particularly Dunbar. Connected at the end with Flanders Smith College.
Everything changed. As you here goes the switcheroo, the great switcheroo.
If you get those neighborhoods around West 9th Street, then basically you take out all of its clientele and all of the people who use it on a regular basis. So slim pickings and urban renewal certainly doesn't help West 9th Street in any way.
That impacted the businesses that relied upon these dollars to flow down to 9th Street in a very negative way. You have to make money. The Dreamland Ballroom closed its doors in 59, and immediately another club went in here, but it didn't last. They were gone by 65.
What you thought? Decisions have been made about these communities, but the people who live there have not been sitting at the table along with the decision makers. And once things start rolling, it's often incredibly difficult to stop it.
Why? Y'all should have stopped it then when they seen it.
Your entire community is gone in one sweep, and all you're left with are memories.
These Chinese people coming in, moving in everywhere, buying or supposedly taking over places. How y'all come from
then,
the other country,
in addition,
taking over shit here?
Examples really
how this happening in
horrendous
Florida? How
public
Florida standing
policy.
for that shit? What's up?
Little Rock Housing Authority in the state of Arkansas collaborated in building the East-West Expressway, what became eventually Interstate 630.
You know, one of the things that the I-630 does is it drives a big concrete wedge between West 9th Street and Flanders Smith College and the Dunbar neighborhood that's behind it. So it really hardens the lines of what's going on with that.
I'm gonna hit you up on the L.
Urban renewal efforts and the building of the interstate system put people in cars, gave them access to suburban land, and suburban America began to grow and develop.
You about to bounce, bro?
Remarkable
Yeah, I gotta check out.
Late 50s and 60s.
I bring them. I'm gonna hit you up on the back end.
A city like Little Rock, vastly different than 1950.
Peace to the gods and goddess.
We see a white flight out of central Little Rock moving to more of the suburban areas.
So the I-630 is really kind of suburban expressway as it becomes to get people from particularly West Little Rock suburban neighborhoods to downtown where they work.
Now you're moving into the downtown area.
Look at the excavation. They just dig up and tear shit up and
yes, the downtown area is a real problem, Jim. The problem there, of course, is right-of-way. The Housing Authority is acquiring much of the right-of-way through the High Street project, which is from Broadway to Bishop, and then, of course, it still has the construction cost and the scheduling of the construction by the Highway Department. The plans have been pretty well completed, and if we had the right-of-way, they could move right ahead on it, depending, of course, on the matching money from the federal government.
And that freeway phenomenon called urban renewal or whatever is consistent across the country. And I can't see that there isn't some intent when it happened everywhere.
Everywhere.
Exactly what they wanted to do was to destroy a black community. Because see, they lied to those black entrepreneurs that were on Main Street when they told them, we're going to build a freeway and it's going to come directly down Main Street. Some of them said, well, I might as well take my business elsewhere. And those that didn't, they threatened them with eminent domain.
Well, they was going to tear all this out. This was going to be the throughway. It was going to take over all of this. There's going to be any more nice. But as you can see, your freeway is over there. Part of 9th Street is still here. And you had places that should have been kept and saved on this street. But it did not happen. See, 9th Street became a place of blight. Glass, boarded up buildings. It became a place that you would really be sick to see it.
And as fast as those people moved out of those buildings, they've started tearing them down, one by one. Started tanning me.
You know, I don't think anybody ever even dreamed of 9th Street ever going down.
I
We
bet.
didn't even think about that.
Beautiful.
Thought it would always be there.
I'll never understand that. Why? It was designed to destroy that. It had to be.
It's gone, and all the people who were connected with it laid to rest. That's history.
Now, when they tore down these structures, they just cleared it off, surface cleared. They didn't dig down into it. There might have been basements that are just covered in. You never know. So that would take an effort, I think, that needs to occur to really identify the sort of the hidden parts of the street. These sidewalks are original, wide sidewalks, or as they were in 1950, 1960, or even before. This is more than likely added. This was a saw cut, and they placed this plaque embedded in concrete at that location. It means Arkansas Highway Department right of way. So this is how they determine the boundaries. This is what they used probably to survey the new expressway that came through the town. So these are just other symbols of the street that has historic value, I think. If there was not an I-630, if there was not an urban renewal, you would have had really historic buildings that would have created a situation that might be similar to Bill Street in Memphis. There may have been more restaurants, more places to attract people, more from an entertainment standpoint. It would have been a plus for the city of Little Rock to have a district, a distinctive district. You had the Mosaic Temples on one end of 9th Street, you have the Boarding Hall on the other end. So you had traffic, you had circulation going between these two anchors, the anchors of 9th Street. The land is still here, the street is still here. The opportunity to build back this street in a manner that would be consistent with the historic character is still possible. So I would assume that the goal would be, let's fill in the blank. Let's fill in the space between the anchors.
Fill in the space between the anchors.
In 1988, the city of Little Rock announced it was planning to demolish buildings all along West 9th Street. The Arkansas Historic Preservation Office basically did get the city to agree not to demolish the Moran Hall. Later in the early 1990s, it was sold to Carrie McCoy, who really began a major renovation, restoration of the building.
She bought this building, which was supposed to be demolished because it became a desert of utility.
Ooh, Lord,
what used to be there.
I don't know. Just when I first saw it, I was just in love with it. I came in that front door, which I have a picture of. I came in the front door, and there was debris from the front door all the way back. The debris was literally a foot deep.
Dang. They tore
I tried to come in a couple of times and didn't get there. And
Bill
after
Clinton
about the second or third time,
his
I
hometown
found
looking
a
like
path to the third floor.
Anytime the first black president, ignorant.
It was kind of a tunnel. And when I came out and turned around and looked at the ball, it was just beautiful. I cannot tell you how beautiful it was. I cannot believe.
Look how they tore it up.
I'm crying over it. It was like a spiritual experience. Seriously.
Wow. Even the white woman was touched.
It is a moment in time, and it has seen so much, and you can feel it. You absolutely can feel
all
it.
The energy in there. Imagine all that. Remember they were showing all them dancing in there, and Imagine all the energy
Right
still in that place. You can't get rid of that.
So many stars participated right here. And there were enough people to keep this going.
She bought it. And she had a vision of what it can be. And as a result of that, she brought back, through the history of the past, a renaissance of what used to be in that building.
I don't want to change it. I don't want to take it back to being to its original grandeur. I want it to be exactly like it is, with its chipping paint, with its walls that can talk, with its box seats that aren't perfect, with its balcony that's not perfect, with its floors that aren't perfect, with its ceiling that's not perfect. I want to save it. I'm spending my energy on it. And so the mission is, let's save it.
All this should have been a part of history. Just like she's revitalizing this building, she being carried.
That's right.
It took a lot of effort, time, and money to come and redo this, to keep history alive.
This building is intrinsically important to Arkansas history and to all of us.
This is part of the American story. I mean, we need to know about these communities. We need to understand that the communities were complex, that people were educated, that people had money, that people owned businesses, that they established and maintained important institutions in these communities. These are stories that people aren't getting.
Really, if we don't understand how we got to where we are today, we can't really have any sense of the mistakes we made, the things that we got right, in trying to forge a policy for moving forward to the future.
The whole community did this to these people, so the whole community has some responsibility, it seems to me, through social policies to try to redress these ancient wrongs.
I think we, many of us wish we
Say
could,
that.
Go back and play out this story a very different way, yes, but the story's been played out the way it is, and it's thinking about how do we overcome the division that folks a couple of generations ago helped to create for us.
We are still 3 steps behind everybody. The Black community is. And most of it is our fault. It's our fault. We hold each other back.
Say it. Say it.
I want to have community and family, and I want to love on one another. We don't have that togetherness anymore. And I'm not sure what we can do about coming back together as a community.
If they could do it then, going through all of what they went through,
right,
with so little, and today we have so much.
Nobody don't even want to give a little.
We can't even come together.
People won't even feed a person. They see him hungry, right past them in the damn street.
It's hurtful, man. It's hurtful.
9th Street sticks in your mind. Freedom again, that sense of freedom. I go out there now and stand on that corner and think about how it was 60 years ago. It was great. The things that you could do on 9th Street should have never been ceased. It should be alive and well right today. Yeah, what's gone now is sad. It's sad what's gone, and what it is now, just one building sitting here. And this one building brings back the memories of thousands and thousands of people. This one building. This is the memory right here. This is the hub of 9th Street.
You can have everything there now again that once was there if you learn to appreciate it and try to help people to bridge that gap of then and now. And they'll be so that they'll get a little appreciation for it. Once you taste it, you may like it. Got it?
Them that got shall have, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible says.
All right, guys, I got something else for y'all. If you want to stick around for a minute or two, it's not going to be as long as this one. I want to play something for you guys real quick in the meantime while I'm trying to get it together. All right, so just give me a minute, guys, and we will be right to it.
A lesson we chose to ignore. It's said that there were shrieks and gasps in the gallery of the New York Stock Exchange. People are stunned by what is happening and terrified. Thousands of people begin to gather outside the stock market. 10,000 people. They fill the streets from Broadway to the East River.
People wanted to know what was going on. They went there. These huge crowds gathered around the stock exchange, around the statues and on the stairs, waiting to get any kind of news they could as people came out of the exchange. They could hear voices. They could actually hear the shouting and yelling as people were buying and selling. But they didn't know what was going on. And so they gathered and they stayed there to find out.
Few of the thousands waiting in the crowd appreciated the scale of the disaster that was about to unfold.
This is the same era.
Nor could they imagine that over the next 5 days, a financial catastrophe would sweep away the foundations of America's prosperity.
All the people they
to understand what brought about the crash, we need to go back a decade, to a time when American confidence grew so high
that it seemed the good times would last forever.
So they start moving us out.
In 1919, the US had emerged victorious from World War I. A mood of optimism was in the air. Britain and its European allies were exhausted financially from the war. But the US economy was thriving, and the world danced to the American tune.
The uncertainties were over. There seemed little doubt about what was going to happen. America was going on the greatest, gaudiest spree in history, and there was going to be plenty to tell about it.
In the 1920s, everyday life was changing. Electrification transformed
This was right after the
towns were hooked up to the grid.
Remember the White City?
Emerged. Airplanes, radios,
after they
domestic
excavated
goods that had started life as luxuries now became necessities. The car industry also boomed as people flocked to buy one of the new Ford or Chrysler automobiles. An era of boundless prosperity seemed to have begun.
This is the flowering of consumer culture and mass consumption on a scale never before seen. There's also heavy installment buying to encourage people to buy big-ticket consumer items so that they can buy those items on credit.
This type of consumer credit was another innovation of the 1920s. For the first time, the idea of buy now, pay later hit the mainstream.
And there's a kind of play culture that develops alongside this consumerism, which says, we believe now in instant gratification. Take care of the now. Don't worry about the future. Live for the moment.
There was a whole ideology that we were in a new economic era, that it was the birthright of every self-respecting American to be rich.
Fake bonds.
With easy credit and more disposable income,
fake credit,
Americans were
fake
now
bonds.
looking for new ways to get even richer.
Uh-oh.
Since World War I, the US government had sold
About to get
bonds
broke right after
known
this.
as Liberty bonds to pay for the war. This was a way to borrow money from the public, who in turn would receive interest payments.
What that sound like? What they doing right now?
Celebrities such as Charlie Chaplin and Douglas Fairbanks had been recruited to promote them at huge rallies.
Actors to promote
Liberty
the fake ass
bonds
money.
caused many people to become investors in securities for the first time. For the first time in their lives, they got interest payments every 6 months, and the security was something they could trade on the market, so they could look in the newspaper and see what the price of my bond is today.
Liberty bonds created an investing culture. Most people had never purchased securities before, and it got ordinary people accustomed to buying securities.
Now there was another group of people who thought they could take advantage of this new investing culture. The bankers of Wall Street.
Of course.
For years, Wall Street, the center of American finance,
Fast
was made up of
they
a
done
small
screwed
elite
up.
group of bankers.
Let's get to it. Big dummies.
Numbers all across the country, not just New York City, but in cities and small towns all across America, people were in love with the stock market.
Technology made it all possible. The latest share prices flashed from Wall Street could be printed out within minutes across America using telegraphic ticker tape machines.
You could find ticker tape in nightclubs, in railroad depots, in beauty parlors, on ocean liners. The market became a pervasive part of America's play culture in the 1920s.
Again, something to do.
I eat, sleep,
Playing
dream,
around.
talk stocks. The only way I believe to make money. It's exciting. I love it. $17,000 profit on $3,500 capital. Not bad.
There were wild speculations in all kinds of securities, movie company stocks, aeronautical stocks, all the auto company stocks.
One of the hot stocks of the 1920s was Radio Corporation of America. It was a
Radio.
lot like today's Google. You know, it was cutting edge technology. They had this idea that you could put radios in cars. Imagine that.
the American investing public began to connect with products they were using that were coming from corporate America with the notion that, hey, I might own a share of the company that makes that product that I like.
I have to see my brother, find out what he can do, because I'm in the mall, yes, for you, all sweet.
By the mid-20s, around 3 million Americans were in the market, and Wall Street gripped the public imagination. With tales of fortunes being made overnight, the idea of a great bull market, where shares only seemed to go up, took hold.
Every popular magazine, every newspaper, every radio station was fascinated by what was going on in the stock market. People charted the activities of celebrities like Charlie Chaplin or Groucho Marx and were fascinated by what stocks they happened to be speculating in.
The young comic actor Groucho Marx invested all his savings into the market and was so pleased with his profits on paper that he persuaded his brothers to invest too.
What an easy racket. RCA went up 7 points since this morning. I just made myself $7,000.
But it wasn't just celebrities becoming speculators. The big Wall Street speculators were becoming celebrities themselves. They were thought of as creative, entrepreneurial, and bringing wealth to America. Joseph Kennedy, father of the future President Kennedy, was one of this new breed of shrewd financial superstar.
People were fascinated because some of these men, like Joseph Kennedy, were ordinary folks. They were men from nowhere, and their rapid rise on the market was a kind of inspiration to ordinary folk that might even be possible for them someday.
Story.
She had moved into this house when she was a couple of months old. She was bright, she was adventurous. By the time she was 11, she had received a camera, which was a new invention by the time, and she immediately took to it. Over the years, she took some 8,000 glass plate negatives, making her one of America's earliest and most prolific photographers.
Alice's inheritance from her grandfather had funded a comfortable lifestyle, but
Yeah, I think I played y'all the wrong video.
In that sense, we're exactly the same position as people were in 1929 when the government turned a blind eye.
I'm looking like, why is this video so long? This is not the right video, guys.
What I do hope and I do think is that
I wanted to show this, but not the whole thing in reference to another video I was going to be doing. But this is just about the Great Depression. But it did show that this was around the same time. And I believe that's why a lot of those people had moved out, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, let me get to this other video because I'm like, this thing is going too long. That thing's like, it should have been like a 12-minute video. So hold on, guys. I got you. It seems to be playing okay. So let's hope we don't get no stupid issues and no junk like that because this is definitely not the one. I must got to exit. Oh, it's taking me back to the previous video. That's why. Hold on, I got to exit the screen. Okay, let me see where it's at. Hold on, guys, 1 second.
the Charlotte County Government and County Commission. Bill Smith Appliances, and the Lee County Black History.
All right, guys, unmute. It's not me, it's the computer acting stupid as usual. Give it a second. Let's see what she do. This is a good one. This is a good one. This is the African Americans in Southwest Florida. This was in the 1800s to 1960. Okay, there it goes. It's trying to get right. It's trying to get right. Let's see what it do, guys. Well, some of the other brothers that came in. Peace, David Black Wolf. Ray Alexander, haven't seen you in a minute, bro. Hope all is good. American Indian Star Strike. What's good, brother? Oh, here this crap go. Hold on. Let me go and check. See what's going on around here. Come on. Wait. No. Should I close it out and start it back? Because this thing is actually. Let's do that, y'all. Let me play y'all something real quick. Or is it gonna stop? Now it's acting like it wants to come. Let's see. Yeah, let's close this crap. Oh, my patience is not on like 2 right now. Let me open it back up, y'all. Hold on, let me see. All right, now I gotta go open that back up because I think I can really retarded. Let's see if we get a better connection. Maybe I'll be able to hear it now. I don't know how it disconnected from the sound before where I had to unmute, but let's see. Yeah, I was wondering, like, why is this thing showing all these white people? I was not, no offense, but I was not, that wasn't the video I was trying to get to next. I was like, definitely the wrong one. Okay, so let's get to it, guys. Here we go. She opened up. Let's get to the right video. There we go. American in Southwest Florida. So you know when they say African Americans, we know what they're really saying, right? Just keep in mind, y'all. We're gonna eat the meat with the bones and stuff. We ain't gonna be doing all the extra.
County government and
all right, let's get to it.
Bill Smith Appliances. And
let me pause it.
And the
for a minute until get the screen going. It's playing. That's one thing. Okay, let's see. There we go. Goodness gracious. If it ain't one thing, it's something else, but I better get the cracking right now. Let's see. Let's see. How you doing? You playing? It's showing. Maybe if I turn some of these other phones on. Let's do that. Turn that one on. And turn this one on. Let's see what she do. Let me know if y'all can see it, because on this phone that is there, but it's not showing if it's on the screen. Put a 1 in there if y'all see it. If y'all do, I'm gonna play it. I just can't see it. Maybe I'm It was working just fine. Now, let's start. Untitled. What it do? What's in there? Okay, it's in there. All right, let's see. No, nothing. Okay, there you go. There you go. There you go. Now we in there. Goodness gracious. Let's see.
County Black History Museum.
Until we start, Lord.
Welcome to Florida. We're going back in time when segregation was a law of the. We'll hear untold stories about pride, endurance, and victory. Join us as we learn about the development of the African American community in Southwest Florida, meet some of its remarkable people, and hear about their dreams, struggles.
American community begins with recollections of the days of slavery and how those painful memories impacted future generations.
My brother was about slavery. When over here on the ship, one man jumped off and he was swimming in the water and they shot and killed him. And it was so, it was, those things, when I was growing up a little girl, it worried me.
Hope, because I am son of a slave. On my father's side, my great-grandfather, I knew of him, Thomas Russell, had been a slave. He lived 3 years after he was freed. I've always wondered what he did with those 3 years of his life that he knew freedom.
There were also positive stories, stories of friendship and unity.
Well, a lot of free runaway slaves hooked up with the Seminole Indians, and they retreated down to this area. And they learned how to live in this area in thatched roofs made out of palm fronds. They did some initial farming, did some initial ranching, had a lot of black cowboys.
In many cases, Indians were enabled African Americans to escape slavery, and they intermarried with African Americans. As I said, on both sides. On my mother's side are Creek Indians, on my father's side are Cherokee. And I know that in Florida, in the history of Florida, that Creeks and blacks marrying helped to produce the Seminole tribes.
Family stories about slavery reflected individual experiences, but as time passed, many families moved on and looked forward.
To be fair, there wasn't too much I heard about it, because when I came along, They were trying to get away from it. Sometimes they would talk, but the children could not listen. What they had to say, they would send us in one room and they would talk about it. And I think it was because they didn't want us to know.
Slavery was not a conversation that really was addressed very much in my family, but my grandfather, maternal grandfather, told me that his mother was a slave, and she died sometimes in the early 1930s. But I never met her. I never got a chance to talk with her. So I don't really know firsthand. I've never met anybody firsthand that was a slave.
One of the reasons I think that slavery really wasn't a discussion for households of African Americans, especially during the early part of the century, because so many bad experiences were connected with slavery, especially for people in the South and in the Deep South. And it was just a topic that was better left not discussed.
After the Civil War was over and slaves were freed, African Americans in Southwest Florida established communities.
Of the 15 men who came to Punta Gorda initially, from palm scrubs to just laying out the town and helping to develop that town.
The history of the African American community in Fort Myers, Lee County, began with the settlement of Nelson Tillis and his family around 1869. And later, other African Americans came to the area. As work became available to them, they settled in Unsanable Island, Boca Grande Island, out east near Alva, and other areas of Lee County, down south near Fort Myers Beach. The African Americans who came to work remained to live here. There are African Americans who cleared the way for the Tamiami Trail. There were African Americans who worked on the docks on Boca Grande and Sanibel Island. There were African American farmers on Sanibel. They picked the fruit in Alva.
As African American communities grew, churches were built. These buildings became more than just places of worship.
When we talk about the whole African American religion or church movement, it's very important to remember that the slaves brought religion with them. The Christian church that developed here in America is really a syncretism of African religion, some Islamic religion, and then of course the Christianity that was here. Now, the Christianity took hold with the African slaves because of many of the stories that they heard, especially the story of the Israelites and their struggle for freedom to find the promised land. This story was just very, very important to African Americans.
The number of the schools for African Americans were started in the churches. Before the Williams Academy, there were schools operated in the churches. And after Williams Academy, there were classes, kindergarten, first and second grade, held in the churches. So yes, church played a very, very important role, not only in moral growth and stability, but in educational growth and stability.
The first service held in Punta Gorda was an integrated service. They saw no harm in living with Black people.
Local communities also benefited from the input of some influential leaders who made lasting contributions.
Dr. Ella Piper was a foot specialist and a beautician. And clients were white. She had no Black clients. And the wife of Thomas Edison, and it is said that the wife of Henry Ford went to her beauty salon to hair, the hands, and the feet. She was a philanthropist. She gave to the community.
Dr. Piper provided a lot of services for her community. She would provide food for people who she knew needed some food. She helped the children. She was always in education, sponsored the education for some of the children in the community.
First, she told us she was a very, very good Christian. And she would tell us first, seek the kingdom of God. Then, people, you have education that nobody can take away from you. She said, then when you use it to help somebody less fortunate than you are.
She was not a Fort Myers native. Ella Piper came here in 1915 with her mother, Sarah Williams. Sarah started Children's Christmas Tree. Happens today. And Sarah died in 1929. And Dr. Ella carried on her tradition until she died in 1954.
I remember
when we were kids.
If she died in 29, she had to be operating in the 1800s.
It's in
Panama.
Piper Center. And then when I had kids, my kids got Christmas gifts from her because my husband wasn't making but $9 or something a week. So that's how we got our gifts.
Another woman was instrumental in establishing a lasting holiday tradition.
Historically, the Dunbar Easter Parade was founded, first of all, around 1945 by Evelyn Sams Kennedy, an elementary school teacher, an art enthusiast because she did ceramics beautifully. This was something very special for the boys and their families. On Easter Sunday, here, Martin Luther King Boulevard was lined from Old Palm Avenue with people watching the parade.
Midwives played an important role in every community in the early days of the last.
Dear Lord, Father in heaven, let this mother have a safe delivery. Let her with these babies safe and sound without all hurt, harm, and trouble. I wasn't 5 years old when I thought about it, because that's when my brother, I'm 5 years older than my brother. And that's when I thought about being a midwife when he was born. Sometimes I didn't get a dime, but I took care of that little baby that I didn't get no pay for, just as good as I did if you'd have paid me the full time.
My mother, in her midwife work, she's been called 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, another day. She was called, and when she was called, she got up and went.
And her patients were very lucky because Mother Perry had one simple secret to her success.
Our came to me, I'd have them to come to me a week ahead. I would start to pray. Every night I'd get on my knees and pray my prayers. I'd ask the Lord to let her have a safe delivery. And I never had no bad trouble.
Out of the 514 babies she delivered, she never lost a child. They were all fine, healthy babies.
The babies grew up. The country found itself at war, and young African-American men from Southwest Florida became soldiers.
During World War I, segregation was a big issue in the whole United States, and all the black soldiers were from. And even though there were the fellows that I had talked to who served during those times, even though they're blacks qualified to lead, they always had a white officer in charge. They never, they were sergeants or it's about as high a rank as they could get, and the lieutenants and up were officers were all white.
I think the Second World War was the best thing that happened to the black man because it enabled him to get an education, enabled him to see other parts of the world, meet other parts of the people, and become very aware of what the world was about. Because the GI right came out of that war. And a lot of people was able to get an education. The GI Bill for homes came out of that. homes.
When Africans returned from service overseas, reminded that segregation was the way of life back home in Southwest Florida.
Stories that I heard, probably again from my father, was their treatment, that they went off to fight a war, and when they came home, that they were treated so very poorly, that they fought for the freedom of other people, but they did not have freedom themselves.
I couldn't understand that the boys could go off and go overseas and fight for the country, fight and die. But when they come back home, they was living the same way they were living, or even worse off than before they left. That always stayed on my mind. How can a man die for a man, and then he can't live with it? Because there's no better friend than one that will lay down right for his friend. I don't care what color he is.
In this community, a segregated community, everything was separate. We had hardly any uh, facilities here. They had separate restrooms and separate drinking fountains for black and white.
Drink water, all the water looked the same, but there was a white water, and there was a color water, and later on there was a black water. And we all could not go to the same restrooms.
We never traveled with less than half a tank of gasoline. That was important because my father, we would stop, my father or mother would go into the gas station and would ask, okay? If the owner said no, then we would get back in our car and keep driving.
I remember telling my husband, you can go to the side window of the door to get food, but I won't. And don't bring me any. You can bring it for the kids, but don't bring me any, because I don't think it's right. And I don't think I should support that, you know. And as I say, that was maybe my hardest thing in life, is accepting why that things were so different because you were Black. That was my really hardest point. And that started, in me. I think that was instilled in me when I grew up, that I was equal, because that's what my mom and dad taught us. And I just never forgot that. I always thought that if they said I was, I was.
I wanted to sit on Santa Claus's lap. And my mother, it hurt my mother more than it hurt me. I cried because Santa Claus would not let me sit on his lap. But my mother she was broken by that. She really was. The rule was that if you were a Black child, Santa Claus would not let you sit on his lap. And you know how they would have the lines, who went to the line, and I would hop right up there, and he wouldn't let me sit. And my mother I don't think she ever got over that. It was because it was not so much as a personal hurt for her, but what it did to her child. And that's what segregation did. Black parents had to carry pain and anger in their hearts and in their minds and their spirits for years because of what it did to their children.
Some parents had to make painful decisions in search for their children's education.
We talk about my mother's generation and the generations before her. Because there was no high school or no school past 6th grade for African Americans, they would have to live with relatives out in other counties where there was a Black high school. They had to go away and live away from home. They boarded away from home to go to high school.
I went to elementary school in Everglades, and I went to 8th grade. That was as far as it went. And they didn't have another high school in Collier County, no high school in Collier County for me to go to. So my mother sent my brother and I to Orlando, not Orlando, but it's a little place out from Orlando, Eatonville, the only all-colored town that I knew of at the time.
Segregation was responsible for many painful experiences, but some saw benefits to their way of life.
The advantage, if there were advantages, and I'm sure there were, but we were encouraged, strongly encouraged, to participate in an educational setting that would improve us as individuals so that we could be of service to our community and to enhance our own personal lives.
I have mixed feelings about desegregation. Growing up in my little town in Southwest Florida, never ever knew low expectations. In my segregated Black academy, I never knew low expectations. I always knew the highest was expected of me. And if I have gone anywhere in my life, academically, professionally, it has been because of those high expectations that I didn't know anything else.
Despite segregation, there were times when boundary lines were crossed.
We played, little league ball with the white fellas, and we didn't have any problem with them,
Every Saturday morning, we had a football game with the white against the blacks. We played football a while, we fought a while, and we played football some more, and we fought some more, and then we left, mad at each other. Next Saturday morning, we were right back there doing the same thing all over again. It was fun.
There were other occasions when Jim Crow laws fell on deaf ears. Music helped bring people together, and Southwest Florida attracted legendary performers from all over the country.
Mr. McCullough built McCullough's Hall, and during that time, we had some of the notable big bands to come down. I had the privilege to meet the Duke. I danced to his music.
I brought Duke Ellington here in 1947. But that area between the upper 30s and the 40s, 50s, and the 60s, the jazz area, I had a lot of bands. I had Louis Armstrong, Bill Doggett, Buddy Johnson, and his sister Ella Johnson. It was a great, grand thing that we were able to bring these people here and rub shoulders with them, shake hands. Somebody you've been reading of, but you've never seen. When you seen them, that was it. We had white people would come to the named events, but it was against the law. We could run a rope through the middle of the building and on the dance floor and keep them divided. But that didn't keep the white people from kicking the rope down. We didn't do it. We didn't take it down. And they got with the music. They got with it. They danced together on the floor. It was mixing like that, yeah. Mixed, because we couldn't keep them apart. And the white people had to go their way, and the black people go their way when the affair ended, see?
Another favorite gathering spot was the beach.
Well, the story goes that there were signs on the Fort Myers beach says, "In and dogs not allowed." So when the Bunch Beach started, that was it set that side for the blacks.
Oh, what about Bunch Beach? Bunch Beach was the Black Beach. It was dedicated in 1949, and there were 5,000 people here in Fort Myers for that dedication. And there was a beauty contest. Oh, it was a grand affair. The high school band played, and many young ladies from the high school were beauty contestants.
But despite the good times and shared experiences, the painful truth remained that the world in which they lived was segregated and offered limited opportunities. People organized and began the long fight for equality.
Why I had to be suffering like this? Why? I'm a human being, and I got a brain like everybody else, and I should be able to be accepted as a man and a human being, not just a black and white situation.
These cards were dealt to you, so you tried to live with it. No matter what the situation, You didn't like it, but that's the way it was. So, in order to survive, in order to live, you did what the people expected you to do if you didn't want to get into what they say was trouble.
The Supreme Court passed the law that schools would be desegregated in 1954. They said they should be desegregated with all deliberate speed. And I think the schools were desegregated here around 1963 or 64, and that doesn't seem like all deliberate speed to me.
It's not about taking a gallon of white milk and pouring in a cup of chocolate milk and a pint of lemonade and a bunch of tomato juice and making a mess. It's about taking some white linen and some black wool and some red silk and some yellow burlap and making a quilt. Now, from a distance, it looks beige. But when you get up on it, you can see that fine black wool. You can see that fine white linen. You can see all the things that make it work.
My heritage is wonderful. It is rich. And I'm passing it along to my grandchildren.
My Black heritage meant a lot to me, knowing where I come from and where I am today.
Well, it's most in education.
All right, guys. So,
I believe that.
the last thing I want to do before we get out of here is play 10 minutes of this book that I would suggest you guys get. It is The Original Black Elite. This is an audiobook on Google. It's only $19. I'm going to play the prologue for you guys.
Recorded Books and RB Digital present The Original Black Elite.
This is what happened
Daniel Murray
during
and
that
the
time.
Story of a Forgotten Era by Elizabeth Dowling Taylor. Narrated by Karen Chilton. Prologue. Quote from Frederick Douglass. Now and always we expect to insist upon it that we are Americans, that America is our native land, that this is our home, that we are American citizens, and that it is the duty of the American people so to recognize us. At the crack of day, Daniel Murray, in a silk top hat, moved along the city streets with purpose. He walked at a steady clip, given the chilled air this second morning of October 1899. Though the temperature had dropped to freezing overnight, the forecast promised a warm-up for the special occasion ahead. The nation's capital was to receive the famed seaman Admiral George Dewey, who the year before had led the Navy so fearlessly, so decisively at Manila Bay, routing the Spanish fleet and claiming the Philippines as war booty. President William McKinley was to present the hero with a $10,000 sword crafted of steel, gold, and diamonds by Tiffany & Company, a symbol of the country's gratitude. Prominent citizens were awarded the great honor of traveling to New Jersey in a specially outfitted train to escort the admiral back to Washington. The Washington Post reported that the roster of the select might be announced on the evening of September 30th, but not until the next day, Sunday, would the names of the escort committee, Daniel Murray's among them, be released. It was nearly 7 a.m. when Murray reached the train station near Pennsylvania Avenue and 6th Street. His three-story brick home was in a fashionable block of 12th Street Northwest, and no doubt he was excited when he checked, then clicked shut his gold pocket watch and bid his wife Anna goodbye. He was the proud father of 5 sons, his eldest a premier violinist in New York City, his second soon to be a Harvard freshman, the 3 youngest still at home. Any normal Monday, Murray would be taking the street streetcar to the Library of Congress, where he was an assistant librarian. But now, he joined the group of gentlemen gathered on the train platform who were dressed just as he was: striped trousers, Prince Albert coat, patent leather shoes, silk hat, and gray
Aristocrats.
gloves. A good number of them, like Murray and the gallant Admiral Dewey himself, sported full mustaches that encroached more than a little over the upper lip. More than half the escort committee members had made the elite list, a compilation of those in the district with assured social position. There is no reason to think that Murray was uncomfortable. He knew many of the men from his full slate of business and civic activities. The flag-festooned train that hissed in, waiting alongside the 40-some distinguished escorts, was furnished by the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. Equipped with every modern convenience, the polished nickel-plated train was one of the finest that ever ran on American tracks, and the fastest, up to 90 miles per hour. Boarding for the 7:30 a.m. departure, Murray showed his ticket with pleasure. Parlor car A, seat 21. He was ensconced in a plush upholstered easy chair when the train jolted out of the station. The ride smoothed out, and the men chatted about the 2 days of festivities in the nation's capital that would be let loose upon their return with the hero of Manila. From time to time, some took advantage of the smoking car with its leather chairs, well-selected library, and fully supplied writing tables. Adjoining it was a completely outfitted barbershop. In the dining car, a dozen tables were covered with fine linen and set with sparkling glass and silver. Waiters served broiled bluefish, sirloin steak, and mutton chops. Porters and waiters, in spotless white, were the only black people aboard the train, except for Daniel Murray. The recognition bestowed on Murray by Washington's leading citizens with his inclusion on the famous committee was the kind for which he had worked assiduously, traveling far from a humble start in life. Yes, he knew he was what later would be referred to as the token black. No, he did not crave the company of white people. His lifelong objective was assimilation into mainstream culture and equal political footing and opportunity. The pronouncement, "We are Americans in every fiber of our being, and we have the aspirations common to the citizens of this republic," had issued from a political meeting of race activists that he had presided over earlier in 1899. Daniel Murray was a race man to the core. If he took any pride in being the first black man to join this organization, or the only one to be invited to that social occasion, his greater goal, his long-range vision, was to be in the vanguard of merit-based recognition for every American of color. The rise of those in Murray's black elite circle was realized rather than potential. Its members had attained high levels of education, achievement, culture, and economic security, and thus negated from the start a false line of reasoning that white supremacists gave against racial equality. They were living proof that African Americans did not lack the ability to become useful contributors to mainstream society. Though their race consciousness and identification were strong, they were ready to think of themselves as American citizens first, poised for assimilation into society at large. Though believing that they had earned the right to be evaluated as individuals rather than prejudged, much less dismissed, on account of color, many, including Murray and his wife, energetically took on the role of leaders of the race. They worked for the advancement of all people of color in the spirit of noblesse oblige, yes, but for other reasons too. Though they identified with all blacks according to race, there was another consciousness of kind operating, and that was class. So long as others lumped all African Americans together, those in the upper class were embarrassed by some of their unschooled low-class counterparts, and that generated some of the energy they put into uplift activities. Prospects rose for all African Americans following emancipation, and progress was substantial through the Reconstruction period. But a backward slide commenced with the government's refusal to honor the U.S. Constitution's 14th and 15th Amendments, granting all rights of citizenship to people of every color. In the name of reconciliation with the South, the new citizens were abandoned to renewed oppression by white supremacists. Not only did they lose ground in political influence, economic prospects, and access to public services, the government failed to protect them against lawlessness as extreme as murder. Jim Crow tactics, segregation, discrimination, intimidation, humiliation confronted all Black people. The elite, despite their achievements and gentility, were not excluded. Indeed, when the rug was pulled out from under African Americans following their government's betrayal, the elite had only further to fall. In the end, not only would the example and activism of the upper class fail to lift the race as a whole in the eyes of most whites, but not even the select set would be allowed to assimilate as exceptional. The rude awakening that they were to be segregated and stigmatized with the rest of the race became increasingly clear through the 1890s, a period of reckoning and disillusionment for Washington's Black elite. Yet, on the afternoon of October 2nd, in the last year of that decade, Daniel Murray found himself among the leading citizens of the nation's capital who, arriving at the Jersey City Railroad station, pressed around Admiral Dewey as they welcomed him aboard the triumphal train. 5 hours later, the engine screeched into the Washington Depot punctually at 6:50 p.m. The cheers of those who had seen the escort train off into the early morning dimmed in comparison to the boisterous ovation that accompanied its return with the war hero. At the signal, every noise-making entity in the vicinity, locomotives, steamships, churches, factories, held forth with clangs, toots, chimes, and whistles. An artillery squad fired a 21-gun admiral's salute. A joyful mass of people, many from far and wide, joined in the din. A procession of horse-drawn carriages carried the admiral and his escorts to the White House. The admiral's carriage was a magnificent Grand Damont, identical to those favored by European royalty. Murray and the rest of the escort committee followed the admiral into the White House for a reception in the East Room. Once President McKinley had a brief private chat with the nation's guest, the entire company made its way to the reviewing stand for the monstrous parade. Planned for nighttime, it was a show of sound and light, all that the combined efforts of tons of powder, thousands of voices, millions of lights, acres of illuminations, and scores of bands of music can produce. The Potomac River was set on fire, the Washington Monument painted vermilion, while Roman candles and other pyrotechnics exploded overhead. 12 giant searchlights roamed, illuminating the grand public buildings. Multitudes of tiny lights and trees created a fairyland effect. Down the broad avenue they marched, bands and drum and bugle corps interspersed with endless civic and military groups. The admiral did his best to show appreciation, but after a solid 2 hours of waving, then replacing his elaborate chapeau bras, weariness set in. All parties were due at the Capitol in the morning for the sword presentation ceremony, followed by, yes, another parade. It had been a long day for Daniel Murray, too, a big day. All his life, he saved as a souvenir the non-transferable ticket that had admitted him into the train's parlor car A. This gratifying experience was, symbolically at least, among the last of its kind. A rally, a throwback to more hopeful times rather than a taste of things to come. The overlap of such positive leaning events with newer, harsher realities had become increasingly rare. For Black elites, the slide that had started a decade earlier was now, in the last years of the century, accelerating. More and more of the directional signs pointed backward. In 1897, Daniel Murray's steady advancement at the Library of Congress had stalled following a demotion due to the friction incident to caste and a drop in salary that never budged over an additional quarter century of service. A year later, in response to fresh atrocities in the South, Murray helped found the National Afro-American Council, a forerunner of the NAACP. He and the other executive committee members labored over a host of discriminatory issues, including disenfranchisement maneuvers and Jim Crow segregation on interstate railroad lines. There was an irony in Murray's first-class experience aboard the Dewey escort train, given that in a few months' time he would be required to transfer to a Jim Crow car immediately upon venturing across the river into Virginia. The story of Daniel Murray, father of Black bibliography, race leader, and prominent member of Washington's colored aristocracy, echoes and animates the larger narrative arc of the rise and disillusionment that African Americans experienced over his 1851 to 1925 lifespan. Though he was able and ambitious, primed for integration into society at large, his expectations were foiled by what he called the virus of race madness. There was little about Murray's life that was not infected by race. He lived in a city and was employed by a government that was becoming more segregated with each decade. As he developed a specialty in Black bibliography and biography, even his work at the Library of Congress often focused on race. Home was not altogether a refuge either. It was the office of the National Afro-American Council Bureau he headed, and a meeting place for planning strategies to resist and reverse the second-class citizenship that was especially galling for those in the upper crust of Black society.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to stop that. Of course, we're not going to get into all of that, but I wanted you guys to hear a little bit about that. I'm showing you a little bit of this map in relations to some of that in these areas that we're showing real quick. Let's see here. And we are about to get out of here. Hope you guys today enjoyed today's information. Let's see. All right, what I wanted to show you guys. Let's see here. Just a little bit of this area. This is another map that was in the thing. So let me pull it up. Showing everything, of course, and this is it says the friendly, it called it the Friendly Islands, Society Islands, and the Low Islands. So it's the Low Islands, the Friendly Islands, and the Society Islands are all these islands that I'm pretty sure are where the Caribbean is now. This is showing Atarita. I'm pretty sure that's Puerto Rico. Let me see. I'm not really great with geography, but this showing New Guinea, the Carolina Islands, the Caroline Islands, So yeah, some of these maps are pretty interesting. I just like to show y'all sometimes some of the stuff that be coming up. And the stuff is in my file. People have asked me to send the maps out. It's kind of hard because then I gotta like share my file and all this other stuff in my drive. It's kind of hard to do all that. Let's see. You guys can screen share. Screenshot them. I always zoom in. This is Minnesota. This one got the year on it. It should have the year on it, but I don't see it if it does. The writing is pretty small, some there, but this is Minnesota. This is Minneapolis, Minnesota. Dang, that thing looks pretty, right? All these are like early 1800s. I can't say the exact year. St. Paul, Minnesota. Okay, Insurance Company, Des Moines, Iowa. Dang, look at Iowa. Look like a mud city. Look like a mud city. This is the Council Bluffs. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. Yeah, some of these areas I'm not really familiar with, but this is Davenport, Iowa. Lots of land there. Did y'all hear that, or not hear, but did y'all see that 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 song for Iowa where they were saying that they conquered the land of the freemen and all that, just bragging about it in their little song? That was like crazy to me. Where is that? Let me go back to that actually, so I can read it to y'all. If you guys didn't get the gist of it, and then we finna get out of here. I was just putting some pictures up while they was playing actually. So let me just get to that real quick. I wanted to show y'all that since I pulled it up, and that part. Hold on. Oh, I think that might be the one of the maps I wanted to show, is it? This shows everything. Yeah, this one shows a lot too. Shows everything. I don't think this one has the Indian indigenous names on it. Don't know what that is. So that's not the one. Okay, hold on a second. Let me see. Get to time graph, which I wanted. Let me see. Okay, here it goes. Check this out. This thing says, it says, land of the empire builders. What are we? The empire builders. They even saying it. Check this out. This song is creepy. It says, home of the empire builders. This is a song. Home of the empire builders. Land of the golden west. Home of the empire builders. Land of the golden west. Why is it called the golden west? Because of the sun. Listen, they're going to get into that. Conquered and held by freemen. So the freemen held it, but it was conquered. Check this out. Land of the empire builders, land of the golden west, conquered and held by the freemen, fairest and the best. Onward and upward, ever forward and on and on. Land of the rose and sunshine, land of the summer's breeze, land laden with health and vigor, fresh from the western seas. So they say in the west, away from the dirty, nasty, funky, swampy western seas, they get fresh air and they get the fresh breeze and flowers. Do y'all hear this? Blessed by the blood of the martyrs, blessed by the blood of the ones that came fighting for them. Land of the setting sun. Hail to the land of promise, my Oregon. Ain't that some shit? Did y'all hear this? Did y'all hear this? If not, I'm gonna read a part to y'all that really grabs me. Land of the empire builders, land of the golden west, conquered by the west by freemen, conquered and held by freemen. They get deep. I'm done after that. I just want y'all to see that real quick because that was like crazy to me. I'm like, wow, that's like kind of deep. Like, how even, doing all that like that. But yeah. I appreciate you guys coming in for Sister Soul Main Radio Live with Zoe Hustles. Today he went over land and law. We're going to do part 3 soon. I appreciate you guys for sticking around for the videos on that information. I like things to be open and fresh. So I'll show you a couple of things just to show you some of this past lies, truth, discoveries. We can see some of the trails of these things these people be doing. We have to really just see a lot of this information, stuff that they brag about. We can read between the lines, but we still see what's going on because we really be knowing the truth, right? Builders held by the framing. Exactly, bro. That was deep. That was deep. Yeah, I'm out, y'all. Y'all have a good night. Peace, blessings, and everything.